Hello everyone who is watching this video in the recording. I'm going to wait for the audience to come, but today's topic is spirituality as a form of escapism and control. How spirituality, addiction to spirituality, following some impractical forms of spirituality can either point out the fact that the human is in very strong disagreement with reality, and how it can turn into one of the supermassive psychological defenses that actually rids a person of full experience of life. And as a Tantra coach, as a Tantra therapist, to me it's a very important balance to follow in my clients. It's very important to balance to strive for, because when spirituality becomes obviously the form of escapism, when, hello nature's alphabet, thank you, when spirituality does become a form of escapism, when I see that it's a massive psychological defense, it becomes some diagnostic target for me. I want to go and research what's behind that and how to actually functionalize this person, because a lot of times people go into spirituality saying that, declaring that this is the real life, this is something that actually really happening, and at the same time they have such a mess in their life, such a mountain in their life when you start conversing with them, that becomes bigger and more powerful than they can ever tackle. This is why people escape to the spiritual world, to spiritual life, including the people who are expecting that for their struggle in life they will get some afterlife presented to them. It is about people who cannot face reality, who do not have strength, psychological strength to actually interact with reality, who do not have psychological strength to express their will, to be disciplined, who are unable to declare and build what they desire in the real world. In that sense, spirituality market offers a wide array of things. And of course, Tantra may become something that's perceived on par with this idea of escapism, of not agreeing with reality and going somewhere into some woo-woo plane, woo-woo world where you cannot be grounded. And that's quite the opposite when it comes to Tantra, because Tantra is the tool that may use spirituality, but it is rather to make a person adapted and adaptable to the real world, make the person functional in the real world, and actually connecting the person with their body, and our body being this medium between our consciousness and nature, the world around us. Building this healthy connection is one of the big objectives. Mimi Jones, get a life and be normal. What is normal? What is normal? For whom normal? Joseph? Oh, she's gorgeous, thank you. She's completely right, thank you, Joseph. Kiva? Hi, hello, lovely people from the internet. Hi, Kiva, thank you for joining. Today's topic is spiritual life as a form of escapism and control. But also I'm taking questions on an array of different topics. I know that Kiva is a person who joins every single live stream of mine, and we've been going already through some tantric practices, and also there's going to be a whole closed workshop for the audience that is actually interested in staying in the flow of mastering tantric practices, because I know that live streams are, everybody is welcome in the live streams. Everybody's questions about life, about relationships are welcome. Feel free to ask them. But at the same time, there is another parallel stream that already got established, in which I work with people on specific things and specific skills. And this is where I decided to create a more secluded framework in which those people can join and actually all stay on track. So on my website, Raw Form of Life, you can find the registration form for the Tantric workshop. The date is not established yet. It's a free workshop to participate in. And when I gather enough people, I will start sending out more information. Large Pro, something about Elvis Presley. Hello, madam, and thank you for telling me the topic title. I was just about to ask. Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, no, I learned already from past mistakes. What's your favorite kind of cheese? I don't like cheese. Never liked it. So there's no favorite. So on the subject of spirituality and when it becomes the tool of control, you probably met such people who are very, very cheerful when they live, when they talk about certain subject, when they describe their spiritual pursuits, results of meditation, perhaps some experiments with substances that bring them into altered state of mind. Talk about that this is the real thing. Because they struggle to find the domain in the real world in which they can feel fully embodied. And even though spirituality, this escapism, this like mindset, even that mind over body mindset, oftentimes brings people very far along. I know people who have supreme health, supreme energy because of their spiritual practice. There are still some things that you can tell are in conflict. So there is some deep conflict that I oftentimes observe. And this conflict, sometimes in some people, I was a part of a vegan community, sometimes it's a conflict between and the filth of the body. When foods are assigned categories, this is a filthy food. This is a corpse. It's gross, it's filthy, it carries this filthy energy. So there is this conflict. Then there are people in the raw vegan community too that pursue detoxes. They cannot handle that their body can be having some waste inside of it. So this spirituality, this fashion of spirituality, may be, and especially the escapism in such form of spirituality, may come with rejection of certain physicality of a human. That this beautiful meal goes through the body, and there is food that turns into so-called like clean source and dirty source. People clean their gut. People try to make sure that everything is flushed out, that in and out they're fully clean, untouched. But that's not the reality of life. So there is a conflict, and this paranoia of, for example, even people who are already incredibly exhausted by their vegan lifestyle, they will not touch the meat because it's dirty. So this conflict is so strong that it makes people pursue the path of self-annihilation as opposed to pursuing the path which is associated with what they imagine as dirtying themselves. There will be people who are into some, especially Abrahamic spirituality, who will be cherishing their virginity, like the contact with another human being, will spoil them, will make them dirty, will make them filthy. So there is a lot of conflict with sexuality, that the contact with the fellow human will make a person inherently filthy, will make the person dirty, will make the person of lower quality, not pristine anymore. So there is this fashion of spirituality that influences, that creates this conflict. And this is where spirituality becomes a form of escapism and control. Because there is this rejection of physicality. This is another example. There will be examples when a person has a huge ambition, has a huge amount of stored aggression that can be channeled into something productive, because aggression can be reframed as me influencing the world. Anytime you are influencing the world, you are being aggressive, effectively. Aggression with some malicious intent, aggression with anger, of course, will be perceived as what we usually feel as aggression. But any influence on the world, when your will influences the world, is effectively an act of aggression. Your creative self-realization may be the form of aggression as well. Like me talking right now. How did I dare speak my thoughts to you? I feel like I can do it. I can go on social media and I can speak these things. This effectively some form of aggression. because I entitled myself this right to influence some environment around me. I go do gardening. Through gardening, I am disrupting. Talk louder. What? With gardening, I am disrupting the soil. I am disrupting some ecosystem that was there. Because I want my flowers, I want some beautiful flowers to grow there. It's an act of aggression. So people who are in conflict with aggression, they may have some trauma that put aggression as a whole in all of its representations. For example, they had an aggressive parent, dangerous, aggressive, explosive, disgusting parent. And they group all acts of aggression into one, and they don't allow themselves these acts of aggression. So they minimize themselves in the world, not allowing themselves to embrace their talent, to just permit themselves to express themselves in the world, to influence the world. And there, spirituality comes as well. Swallow your ego, forget your ego. This world, these worldly things, they don't matter. It's all filth. Wait several decades. Up there, there's a good spot for you. And that's how people suppress themselves. They get frustrated. They feel frustration somewhere deep. They feel a lot of conflict. They live with a stored tension, but then the spiritual thing pulls them, gives them some force to keep pushing with this conflict instead of releasing it, not having the conflict altogether, and just doing whatever. So these forms of spirituality that I just listed, those examples, are what I want to discuss today. I myself was affected by that. For me, I was not trusting those things per se. I could not relate to them as much. But still, they served at some point, especially the events of 2020, 2021, when I faced all the madness in the world. I started following some resources, even when they made no sense. Literally, we're speaking about some sci-fi. But those resources were something that allowed me to not enter the conflict that was sitting within me. Something that allowed me to rechannel my conflict that was existing back then. My deep frustration and disappointment somewhere to some positive plane. Let me see the chat. Alrighty then. About cheat. Okay, I will start my notes. I will comment sometimes, of course, to stay active in chat. Thank you, Kiva. Reincarnation is for the best souls. It's all your belief. Good points. Thank you, Kiva. Hi, goddess. Hi, good boy. But you should undoubtedly never eat meat. I have whole research that if you want to explore my channel, I have a huge body of work. I performed research. And I performed ex-vegan study as well, single-handedly. I performed those studies that are undoubted proof of inadequacy of veganism. So meat is something that is essential. How did you learn all this? You're so wise. I observed, I studied, and I also took Tantra course. You're influencing me with your face, tough guy. Interesting gender swap going on. Talk louder, Dad. You have an interesting thing going on, Mike Hunt. Or did I ask this already? I didn't see your question. White girl magic. Please, if you don't mind. I really like these examples. They help with understanding better. Thank you, Kiva. I'm glad. What country you're from? I'm from Russia. Is that from experience? It is partially from experience, yes. Communication being a part of communities that tend to be spiritual, facing a lot of the people and how they come to spirituality, also gave these observations. I thought about a lot as well, because veganism, when I was performing my studies of veganism, it also, all the time, it was always coming to some psychological patterns that I inevitably was compelled to study. And then when I got deeper into my pursuits, I started building some categories. Because as I say, raw veganism, yes, I was raw vegan and I was a part of raw vegan community towards the end. I started talking to people directly and I started actually looking at the influencers. The obsession with colonics goes a long way. So, uh, Ben, hi Ben. Steve, hi, good to see you. By the way, madam, I did finish the 13 steps of Tantra video. Nice, thank you so much. Let me know if you have any questions and if you want to discuss anything from that video. I made separate notes on the 13 steps to keep everything organized. Organized now. Okay, cool. Randall, no thanks. You can do what you invite me to do. Then we have another session of race and IQ thing, so I will just continue with my topic if we don't have any substantial questions on the subject. So what to do? Therapy of people who are part of some spiritual groups, who are pursuing some spiritual beliefs that are oftentimes very strong, and they become a very strong support system for a human. Those spiritual beliefs, they sometimes are so powerful because oftentimes they actually work. As I said, the peculiar part of why those spiritual things build such an attachment is because they become very functional support. Indeed, spiritual beliefs, they give an insane placebo effect. They can rewire your brain, they can reshape your thinking towards more creative pursuits, towards creatorship, towards the power of your thought, towards supreme hygiene of your mind. But yet, there is this thing, oftentimes, that sits behind your awareness, behind your consciousness. And this is where the work shall continue. This is where those spiritual beliefs that are Puritan, oftentimes they're Puritan because they deny a part of existence that is marginally darker, dirtier, filthier. That thing will always be pulling you. This thing will always be creating this energy drain, this quiet energy drain, something that just bothers you, something that makes you run away, something that creates background anxiety, something that prevents you from just feeling steady. And this is why it oftentimes still worth of examining, worthy of working on. Because that will be the new leap, new leap of development, new leap of quality of life, new leap of self-realization, new door that opens, new permission that you give yourself, more balanced life, more sustainable life. When you don't have one thing, just like with an identity. I have videos on identity and why concept of identity, even though oftentimes necessary, is actually dangerous because it may become the limiting belief, the limiting shell, some box where you're sitting and you cannot take an action, productive action, because it will go against your belief and it's very scary. Just like with that, this spiritual belief is very interesting to hold on to and not release it, no matter what. But at the same time, life always challenges us to be more flexible, to enjoy it. In general, whenever I see people who are super passionate, super into something, like this is the thing, and they worship that thing so fervently, this is the thing, this will be the thing that will likely give you the biggest disappointment or crush. This is how it happens in experience. That's why through tantric teaching, that's why through in my own personal philosophy, through human renaissance, through just everything that I've gone through in life and experienced as well, the conclusion is that neutrality about the tools, about the circumstances, is the best strategy. Because neutrality turns everything from a fate, from some like I don't know, something bad, something terrible, to just tools. to just neutral things to experience. And I will tell you the story before I read the chat again. I'll tell you the story. I'm a very emotional person. Back when I was 20, probably 20 years old, I was in the physics department in Moscow, and I was in this super epic university. And in this super epic university, we had class. It was an elective class that we could choose. So most people in general went to entrepreneurship. So it was basics of entrepreneurship, and within this class, the concept was that some famous businessmen, some famous Russian businessmen, leaders, entrepreneurs, would come and give us lectures, free-form lectures. Oftentimes they would tell us the experience, and then they would have a Q&A session with us. So we're in this class, and one guy was the most memorable for me. He literally gave me such a sense of frustration when he said that. When he was asked what was the main thing for building a successful business, for building successful life in general, he said neutrality. And there I was, emotional, very passionate person, very impulsive person. I hear that the secret for success is neutrality, when you don't care. It was such a striking thing for me. I could not agree with that. I was so angry at the moment. I was like, how can you be neutral? You can do all of these beautiful things. You need to kick ass. You need to be this passionate person. And I experienced everything in my life with so much fire, with so much intensity. And this guy tells me that I need to be neutral? Are you kidding me? It makes zero sense. I was like, I memorized only one thing from that speech, because it was straight to my heart. It was straight into something that I had the deepest conflict with. Neutrality. And later I realized that this is the trick. To exercise discernment for what you need to be neutral about, and where is the space for emotions. And then more so, how to tune your emotions that follow a healthy, productive life. And that's in the core of human renaissance, which sets creativity, the creator potential, the spark of creation in every human, in the forefront, as the ultimate guide for how we construct our life, for how we build strategy for life, what experiences we craft for ourselves, how we interact with the environment, how we mindfully establish healthy strategic contracts with all the systems that we interact with, as opposed to just following whatever people do, whatever is normal, and then feeling some expectations and then feeling disappointments, because the system that's anonymized, globalized system didn't cater to our idealistic desires. In reality, if we go back to neutrality, if we go back to our core idea, the system provides tools. The system itself is a tool how we can harvest resources. Our goal, our creatorship, the complex of adaptations that are given to us by nature through genetics, through upbringing, our talents and skills and abilities, they form the core for where we can be the creator. Our intelligence, when we develop analytical thinking, enables us to actually feel all that and work with that. So all of this complex is purely biological, that forms our creatorship in the forefront. And we start from this internal point, we start aligning with our actions and using the systems accordingly. So that's where neutrality, especially in the relationships with the system, especially when you're producing something, when something becomes your product, there is a huge illusion that if you are, for example, passionate about what you're doing, you have energy towards what you're doing. You cannot be neutral towards it. It totally can be. You can exercise neutrality in what you're doing. Right now, I feel neutral about what I'm doing. I know what I want to deliver. I know the message. I am passionate about it. But at the same time, I'm neutral about it. That's the paradox. Going through the chat. Do you think it's possible that spiritual beliefs are links with via quantum entanglement influencing reality in the form of energy light compressed into solid matter mass? Spiritual beliefs versus spiritual feelings are two different things. Okay? Because personally I feel no, let's word it as God. I feel God. Source, however you want to frame it. I feel it. Do I know it? No. Do I have any beliefs? No, I don't believe. I feel. So, whenever there are some spiritual beliefs that start building me the abstract ideas that I need to adhere to, I can't believe them. I can't. My mind doesn't work this way. I either feel or I know. I cannot believe. I can, okay, belief, I can use this word, the belief that if I, for example, I'm testing some hypothesis, in that sense, I will use the word belief as I believe that this is the case. To express my doubt, I lean towards the idea that it is possible, but at the same time not 100% sure. This is how I would use the word believe. But then I cannot, my brain doesn't work like that. I can never just believe. I either feel or I know. So, spiritual beliefs, when they're formulated by humans into some solid form, if they don't pass the trial of feeling or knowledge, which is empirically proven thing, then I cannot believe, for example. That's why spiritual beliefs, they don't exist in my framework, if that makes sense. That explains Green Lantern power. Okay, first time here, Lo had to ask the question though. Thank you, Lobo. What the F? What are you belaboring about? Idealistic poo desires. You answered your own question. I'm glad. Hello, sister. Hi, Surikin. Nice to see you here. This is a lot of wisdom. Thank you, Kiva. I think I love you, Mike Hunt says. Thank you, Mike. We're not going back, Charles said. Isolation helps creative productivity. Sometimes all you need is people. Sometimes you need to throw yourself in the whirlpool of events to have creativity. It depends on where you are in life, I think. Not the universal rule. What the F? Go back to USSR, watcher of wrongs. Are you sure that, go back to school to learn about the history of USSR and how it was dissolved before I was born. Is that a magic wand? It's a hairpin that I use. I made it, and it's very nice. I just like to hold something while I'm talking. Both electric signal in the mind, no? Effectively, yes. Thank you, AKZ, for your contribution, $2. Thank you. Why do I truly understand you? Neural pulses trigger neural pathways for familiarity in the mind, either beliefs or curiosity. I prefer to be very meticulous with wording. It's some habit that I got in the grad school, because in the grad school, when you're working on scientific text, when you're working on presenting something with scientific rigor, you will be scolded for using inappropriate wording. Either no, but we're talking about the world of psyche. We're talking about our human experience, and including animalistic experience. This is where we also have part of feelings, right? So this is why I just use those two words. And belief, again, belief is not a part of the rigorous language for describing the phenomena. So that's how we did put it. Good questions, Lobo. Yes. Jack. Christopher. Hello. Close your mouth, Chris says. Close your. What's up? Do you believe God put breath in your body today? God as a concept, I think, is an invention and property of human mind. I I think that, and another interesting concept for you to think about is that the world in general, nature, speaks in language of statistics. Our world, how I imagine it, is an array, is a system that's in equilibrium, the system of so many elements that it forms this very tightly bound system that operates on um, very tight statistical regime, because nature and our existence in general is a result of sorting through so many possibilities and finding the only existing solution. So when we speak about God, God is a human invention. God does not exist for my dog. My dog doesn't know about God. Only humans invented God. Only humans perceive God and can actually make a concept out of it. Other animals perceive God when they're fully biochemically healthy. That's when they feel this divine ecstasy. That's when they feel the pure, natural, healthy existence. That's how it worded. But humans, we have much more complex mind that's very curious about nature, about existence. We like to replicate nature. We like to take chaos and assemble it into ordered matter and receive an immense satisfaction. And this is the essence of our creative potential, which also can be appended to the concept of God. I hope this answers your question. Well, if you don't feel this, you might want to check yourself out, Charles says. What's this life about? This life is about spirituality that becomes a form of escapism and control. And also, I'm answering your question. Do a hair backflip. I agree, backflips, please. Oh my god, you look so beautiful, just like a model. Thank you, Nick. Looks like a chopstick. Creative behavior favors the concept of belief over knowledge or proof of concept. It's both. The thing is that it's both. You cannot create anything without structure. Creation is formation of structure. Even though modern art, for example, utilizes this concept of expressionism, to become a master, to create harmony, you need to have supreme skill, such that lack of skill doesn't prevent you from expressing yourself as clearly as possible. Just like with the language. If I know only 5 words in English, I will not be able to express my thoughts to you, and you will think that I am incapable of self-expression. That's why, to communicate to you right now, I learned English, such that I have broader tools, broader skill, to be able to express myself, to be able to channel something through me, some information. This is why our skills, discipline, and knowledge, they're very highly necessary for creation. And when we put it in the context of Tantra, and I'm a Tantra coach, Tantra therapist, Human Renaissance, on my website, you can sign up to work with me. In Tantra, there is principle of duality, the harmony of duality. This is some skill that we exercise. How we connect knowledge and feelings, how we create structure and allow ourselves to experience things as fully as possible. Because what happens, even let's take this example of this duality, right? Without structure, without knowledge, you don't know the city. You don't know where to get resources. Your mind is chaotic. You're trying to survive. You come to some world without knowledge. You don't know what to do. You are burdened with the anxiety of how to survive there. Without understanding that you can survive, without knowledge that will enable you to survive, you will unlikely be able to pursue some high-level creativity. You will unlikely be able to actually sit and reconnect with yourself. Your animal will be running, chasing things to pursue knowledge of how to survive in the system. And then also, as a scientist, I will tell you that without the knowledge, you are not going to be able to create a complex system. I was working on the systems, like from ground. It was like from ground to actual working device. I was developing solar cells that were very advanced, that had a lot of physics put into them. To create those very complex systems, I had to develop a huge amount of knowledge, such that I perform this job efficiently, such that I can skip wasting a lot of resources, such that I can actually embrace the creative ideas and bring them to fruition, as opposed to trying to do something without a know-how. It makes no sense to divide the two. Creation relies on knowledge just as much as it relies on talent, is something very natural, on natural intuition, on your energy, just pure energy. Knowledge is what gives this energy form. Your intuition is what gives this is what becomes a material object when it clashes with this knowledge, when it bangs into this knowledge and it produces the result. I would not be juxtaposing that. But you might be feeling, some people might be benefiting from, for example, some denial of one component over the other. For example, if a person grew up in a very restrictive household, very highly disciplined, they will be scared of this discipline moving on. And they will want to embrace more of the spontaneity because they are hungry for it in life. And they will have this tendency to try to seek that over that. But our goal is to always balance them, to functionalize everything as tools: knowledge, feeling, intuition, energy flow. They all come as a toolbox. And even in physics, even in engineering that I did, one part that was very important, everybody was like, I was surprised when everybody took this seriously. I was fabricating solar cells that were producing some record high efficiencies. And people could not replicate that. So I put my SOP, detailed SOP, and just as a joke, I put fabricate and work on them with love. And people treated it seriously. So that element as well, how you approach this thing, how you align with your energies during the meticulous, even the most disciplined work, this also can have an effect. And why this element of like handle these things and fabricate those things with love? How does that play practically? It's not something ethereal either. When you're doing it with love, you're in devotion. You're in devotion and peace. You're doing it for some higher goal. When you are regarding your activity as bringing you to some higher goal that's very beautiful, that serves something bigger than just accomplishment of this goal, you're going to fly on some wings. You're going to be carried to doing your best in that activity. That's why that little joke of mine actually had practical sense. The chat wants you to do a backflip. Magic hair stick. Lobo keeps asking questions. This is interesting. Looks like chopsticks. You're correct. I have a very similar approach to life and environment as well. Thank you, Lobo. Share more stuff in the chat. I will be very happy to chat with you. I don't mean stop talking. I mean when you stop talking, your mouth stays open. Because my jaw is relaxed. God is truck lover's creator. Lies, crying. I made truck lover cry. Sorry, truck lover. Hi. King, when you say God is king, it's a very interesting psychology. It's literally, who has kings? Peasants have kings. Servants have kings. So when you put yourself in this hierarchy as a peasant, as a slave under some king, I think it's derogatory to call God king, because king is essentially the person entitled to ruling over humans, who is burdened by carrying the weight of authority. I think it's very cruel for you to be calling God king, and it's very strange psychology to perceive yourself as a It's like peasants in some medieval village will be talking about king. It's it's bizarre for me. It's something that I would investigate. We're God, Jack says. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's a goddess property of human consciousness. We're humans and we have this property, this ability to connect with something. I like listening and reading and chat about different perspectives, opinions. Yeah, Kiva. Hello from Hawaii, get a boy. Thank you. Hello. Creator creation. Is this propaganda? Uh, I don't know what you define as propaganda. Does being propaganda agency mean having external, like representing somebody else's interests? I don't work in anybody's interests other than mine and interest of my clients. So I don't know. Probably not. Okay, agreed. We shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Free. Shall set you free. That's a tongue twister suddenly. Uh, humble ourselves perilous times ahead. Perilous times, I mean, there are always times. Life is always unpredictable. It seems you either had a strong mental support system in childhood or a great need to form mental analytical mindset for survival, or a great need to change environment. Yeah, I was growing up in conflict with the environment, and at the same time was reflecting a lot and I was reading a lot. So my mind definitely got shaped through conflict. Articulation is critical. Your intelligence is very attractive. Thank you, Jack. You might just be an agent. Working for whom, Charles? Continue your proposals. I'm very curious. Yin Yang. Lobo. Yes. You said it earlier though. Sometimes you're just the right mind and right place at right time. Okay, there was wise men in the Bible that was well educated in science, but they follow the star to find Jesus, the living God, that he do exist today by his Holy Spirit. Religious belief. Jesus is truly no creation understanding without him. Religious belief. Got the notes out and the popcorn ready. Continue on lovely people. Possibly, and sometimes we can just overthink things. I Russian, yes, you're gorgeous. Thank you. I love you. You're my queen. Thank you, Hypernova. But loyalty to a king is priceless. That's slave mentality. I'm listening while throwing, but I'm still here. One king I know is the one in chess. Yeah, right? Stop trying to sound smart and go wash the dishes. Vladislav Pulber. What is modern tantra? Modern tantra is tantra that is using the imagery that exists in the modern world, that uses the concepts that are relevant for the modern world, that is adapted to the circumstances of the modern world. That's it. You just seem like a Russian spy, baby. Как ты? Хорошо, спасибо. Which club do you dance at? Unfortunately, I don't dance in any club. Actually, would want to go to dance sometime, but I dance at home. Yeah, that's the thing actually with people worshipping some kings, pursuing kings. Moreover, that's a commonplace thing when people like go and pursue kings. People go and pursue authority. You're no different, guys, than women who worship Vogue as the central media for dictating women how to live. You should understand that you're no different than followers of Vogue and modern fashion. When you pursue authority instead of finding internal institutions. And I know that I sound like Satanist, perhaps, because Satanism in its core preaches finding responsibility in your own self, being accountable for your actions. But that's kind of what it boils down to. I don't know. I mean, religion, that proves my again reignites my understanding of religions, is that this is a slave creating machine. That's it. So it's the active pursuit of authority. Like how fascinating is it? Vanity and servitude are far different from one another. Servitude is when you're a servant, you're not responsible. You cannot be responsible when you're a servant. You will always be responsible for something that is yours, something that you claim as yours. When you have partial responsibility, you're not responsible. What do you think of Satan? About Satan, I don't think about Satan, but I think that Satan stands for gnosis. Because Satan is a product of the Bible. Satan was not a concept before certain like monotheistic things. So Satan is gnosis if we use the myth in the Bible, which means that when you become aware, when you become self-aware, you lose the divine innocence that creates this purely reactionist, purely embodied experience. Because when you become aware of what we started with what people usually have conflict with some dirty side of life, with the animalistic part of humans, with how humans are animals primarily, when also some traumatic events knock you off your embodiment. This is what revelation of Satan represents. Your gnosis. Now you know what you feel and why. Now you know what the origin of things are. It's like a child who believes in fairy tale creatures. They're very happy, they live through magic. Then at some age they stop believing that, they develop knowledge, they have gnosis. And gnosis strips them away from the feeling of this magic. So when in my notion, we're like running away from this satanic thing, means in the world, actually in the real world, means to always pursue experiences that will make you feel innocent again, which means that you're embracing the flow of life as fully as possible, which means that you learn to rejoice in life as much as possible, fix yourself after traumatic events, and start enjoying life again. Which means you are not afraid of novelty, you're not afraid of new things, and this is how you pursue the divine life. This is where your energy will be supreme, you will be channeling this beautiful creative energy. But what happens is that with modern education, I have a very good video with diagram about it. With modern education especially, people go like, imagine this happiness and innocence, and this is the amount of knowledge. People start accumulating knowledge, and then they, for example, get subjected to this pop notion. They start appending themselves to some political parties, with news, with associating with everything that all the noise that they receive from the media. They know so much about the world, it's unbearable. They fall in this well of suffering. And not many people from this well of suffering, which is satanic thing, by definition, if we take it as gnosis, they don't pursue the path that will allow them qualitatively different kind of happiness. It takes work to not settle in this well where you've accumulated just enough knowledge to prove that the world is so hard, the world is so shitty, the life is so shitty. Don't just settle there. I know too much to be happy. That's the typical thing that happens there. And this is the satanic life. When you denounce your appreciation for life, and when you stop going with the flow of life that will always amuse you, that will always give you freshness, that will always feel like a brand new life every day, which is achieved through pursuing healthy diet, nutritious, rich diet, human appropriate diet, that relies on you following happy habits, denouncing certain things, or striving to denounce the traumatic things, harmful adaptations, harmful automations, rejecting the idea of your mental slavery to the system that breeds this satanic, rotten existence for so many people through multiple means to keep them in this bubble. You denounce that through putting work, through using your willpower and intelligence to put some work to go on this different leap, which brings you qualitatively different experience of happiness and actual experience of life. You, through that gnosis, through this encounter of this Satan as gnosis, you learn how to access the door to the Garden of Eden. By acknowledging that thing and knowing how to work with that, because Satan was actually a part of the Garden of Eden. Satan shows you the way out of the Garden of Eden. Hence, he will show you the way back to the Garden of Eden through gnosis. And that's how you return back, by not settling in this well and in this pressure cooker of disappointment, of this lack of willpower, feeling that you're just subject to life, life is happening to you, you pursue it back and you return there through realizing, through learning about the creation, through the laws of nature, by recognizing yourself as the part of nature, and by integrating everything that you've learned in life, everything, how it was in the Garden of Eden, how it was outside of the Garden of Eden, combining the two, seeing what tools exist, and then bringing yourself back, choosing them. That's the point. I choose to be slave, which makes me free. Sure, heaven and hell is just superstition. Hello? What about duty? Duty to whom? If you get something from this duty, then yes, okay. But a lot of people, they go on duty for without understanding the contract. Social contracts, like imaginary social contracts that people bind themselves to. Like, a man should behave this way. Okay. The woman should behave this way. Okay. I'm in a social contract. I know that the woman should behave this way. You don't even know the authorship of that. Who said that? You're like, oh, I'm a woman. Oh, I'm gonna do that. Without knowing who you are, what your aspirations are, and just go connect with that thing, sign this to yourself. Sign this imaginary contract with the system, getting no benefit whatsoever from that. Just living, draining your resource, because your path is there somewhere. So duty is only when it makes sense. That's what I was talking about. You need to revisit the trade that you're getting. If there is a clear contract, like an employment contract, you know that for these and these and these duties, you're receiving these and these and these resources. And whenever somebody tries to step on these boundaries, you're like, no, it's not in the contract. Let's change the contract, or let's not step on the boundaries. That's how it works in the actual contracts. But social contracts are artificial. You go on social media, some girl with body image, with some like self-esteem issues, will see that, oh, there are girls with lips, and she will be like, oh, I also need to touch lips. She goes and inflates those lips for what? Because there was some offering of some imaginary social contract that made her think that it's in some way necessary. And she doesn't get any benefit from that oftentimes, but just kind of did some demorphed physicality that's very highly likely irreversible without a loss. A surprising fact, an old sense of mine was once, long before I knew him, a high priest in the Church of Satan. It's a bit unsettling to think about, but he was glad to have exited that group. Yeah, I know, because any group, and I've watched videos actually, I was digging that subject because it was interesting for me to learn more about Satanism, just because of the foundation of it. And it also was not sitting with me, because I'm like, it's the same theater as any other church. And I am not appealed to theatrical performances And especially, I don't like the things that come from rebellion. Church of Satan was born as a rebellion against Christianity. When something is based on against something, it's not a sustainable thing in general. It's very like no adolescent behavior, so to speak, and it doesn't have substance in its own in a way because it doesn't make sense separated from that. That's how I actually abandoned my not abandoned. I just closed out my vegan thing because I was in anti-vegan thing or ex-vegan, and I felt like it felt the same way that it exists on the premise that the opposite exists. The talk about everything on of Earth involvement. I love her voice. Thank you. Have you been to Hawaii? No, I haven't. I've been Dominican. When I knew him, he said that he had made martial arts his religion and was much happier and more fulfilled as a result. Yeah, it's an interesting outlook. When something becomes a religion, that's, I think, something that I mentioned in the beginning about holding on to something. Like, it's always worth revisiting what you're running away from to that thing that grabs you so much, that sucks you in so much, that becomes like a religion. But if he's happy, if it works for him, if there's no conflict, then it's good. Hi, what's going on? What's going on is our discussion spirituality as escapism and as form of control, and also free flowing Q&A. We just closed on the topic of Satanism and how I conceptualize it. Oh, indeed, the Church of Satan was as theatrical as it comes, and my sensei was there from the beginning. There are pictures of him in the Satanic Bible. He was fortunate to have extricated himself. Yeah. I watched some things too about it's just too much. I guess it's I watched a very interesting channel of guys who are who escaped Christian upbringing, who escaped Christian thing that they were in since childhood, and they developed a lot of trauma associated with that. So they escaped that, and they were talking to Satanists, and they were making some documentaries about it, and they said that they practiced therapeutic blasphemy. That was for them to break free from the guilt and programming that they received from their church. So that was something that they were mentioning, and that ritual was very theatrical too. I guess it has therapeutic effect on those who felt incredibly suppressed and guilty about their nature by the teachings, because the churches, they do use, all churches will be using manipulative techniques. And then any form of camaraderie is also very weird. I will tell you my experience. Back in 2020, 2021, maybe 2022, sometime around that time, I had an acquaintance. He lived in New York City, and he was friends with some Russian celebrities. I don't know how they were related, but they were somehow friends. I spoke to one of his friends as well. And he was going to the Kabbalah school. And that was, I also was, actually was listening to his teacher online. And we were talking about something, and I gave him a call because the times were kind of getting very weird at that point. I gave him a call and asked him what's the best thing, in your opinion, that could be done to go through these hard times and contribute to the world. And he told me that the best thing you can do is to stick with a school of thought or religion or something, some belief, and go with it no matter what. And that thought didn't sit with me, and I started to question. At that point, I was already questioning a lot of the things, a lot of the religious organizations, what they were preaching, how they were teaching. None of the religious beliefs, in their completeness, none of them were adequate. When you look at them as a whole, they're never adequate. There's always something happening down the road. You read something, you're like, okay, that's interesting, okay, that makes sense. But then down the road, there's like we are the you start like getting sucked into some camaraderie, some collective thinking. Then you also start getting sucked into some management of your life, your like mundane life, and that all becomes kind of unsettling because it pulls you out of natural context. It pulls you out from your connection with nature. It feels like being uprooted. You know how there's a tree like growing in the forest. Very strong, beautiful tree growing in the forest. There's whole ecosystem around it. But then you're like, at some point, you're like, no, now you're going to grow indoors in my house and I will be taking care of you because there are better things you could be doing. So you uproot this tree, you bring it home somewhere in a natural environment in some bucket. You created some controllable environment. You start like pouring some artificial mixtures dissolved in water to feed this tree instead of allowing this tree to be rooted in deep layers of soil with all the microbes and stuff. Instead of that, you connect this tree to some artificial life support. And that is how it feels to just go from nature and whole breadth and massive of life into some belief that now has full governance over everything you do. And that's why I understand people quit on those things. Because all of this belonging to all of those institutions is absolutely nuts. Because it makes a human feel uprooted. Because real life is happening only in nature. When spiritual belief coexists with natural life, that's okay. And that's what we're started with. When spiritual beliefs starts being a cover-up for your conflict with something from the natural world, well, that becomes a problem. And then the more you lean into it, the more you become uprooted from nature, and the more you go there, you lose the natural system. You lose this stability that is found in you being grounded in nature, feeling yourself intuitively, being connected with people, being in some bigger context. When your mind is fully absorbed there, that's over. It's really understandable why people abandon them. Thank you for the insights, lovely people. Thank you, Kiva. You're very beautiful. Thank you for your compliment. Do you believe that Jesus performed miracles? I don't believe. I told you I don't believe. I don't believe in anything. And miracles, I mean, for some reason, with development of photo and video camera, miracles stopped happening to people. Devushka, hey. I feel like I'm somewhere in Armenia. Question, do you believe Jesus is religion, God? I don't believe. No. You should read about Raman Luv. I have many things to read about, but I will keep it in the queue. I'm keeping up, surprisingly. Jesus, I think that Jesus is an archetype that people developed. And I understand that physics cannot measure just anything. I understand that most documents that we have only depict a tiny little sliver of information that is conveyed to us, the written history. But given that just by mathematical induction that miracles are created in the scientific labs nowadays, using knowledge and technology that was developed just recently, and that miracles stopped happening after the development of cameras, no. So Jesus is an archetype of something loving. I also have a huge conflict with that because religions, they glorify suffering, they glorify sacrifice, and this is the biggest manipulation on the planet. Because anything that glorifies sacrifice and suffering as the ultimate virtues is to distract you from your nature. Oftentimes people would go, they want the fame of Jesus. They want to get inspired by sacrificial nature that was presented to the peasants as the ultimate virtue. and they go on the path of pretending that they're sacrificing something, or um, suffering in the name of something. And then that propagates a lot of suffering, that propagates a lot of things that shouldn't be happening in the world. Or could be avoided in the world, I guess. I think I'm also keeping up, but I'm not taking notes in physical sense. I have to preserve my finger. Shouldn't be happening, she says. So let's go back to the therapy of people who use spirituality as the mechanism of coping with life, something that carries them through life. Through a tantric approach, the therapy is based on, first of all, facing the conflict that exists in a human, that makes them put a lot of energy and source a lot of energy from this spiritual concept. Facing it. What is it about? Let's go into this filth that you are feeling. What is that? You have body image that is like filthy. Do you have a relationship with sexuality that is filthy? You carry some guilt inside for something irreparable that makes you feel filthy. You feel like you cannot claim your you cannot claim your path, and that's somehow filthy. You don't receive permission. You're bad. You're gross. You're not worthy. You're not allowed. What is that? So we need to face that with the person who comes and brings that they're like, this like cosmic creatures will come and save us, the star family and stuff is all there waiting. They fully are immersed in mortido. That's another interesting thing. Spirituality often comes with embracing the mortido, which is the opposite of libido. And libido that's related to our grounded energy, our sexual energy, our creative energy. So we face that, and then we start researching how is it in conflict with your spiritual belief. Like, why do these things live somehow in the opposite poles? What does this spiritual entity want from you? Like, why did you decide that this spiritual entity wants certain thing from you? How did you decide that? So we start discussing all of these things. So there's a lot of component of philosophical conversational therapy. How in your imagination all of this comes together, and how to marry that. Like, you're living in this world. Let's build an image of the world. What is world for you? What is you? How do you perceive all of that? And then we find the space for this spiritual belief. How does that work there? And then we start doing some embodiment practices, because the rejection of bodily needs, it still creates some component of a human that still wants to thrive physically, that still wants to experience physical pleasures, physical functions. So we need to find the key to that thing, which is done through lowering the anxiety through a variety of different practices. Because this rejection of some components of physicality, they also come as a mean of control. I'm controlling something. I'm controlling my spiritual belief. I'm controlling my body. I'm controlling my guilt. Like on a daily basis, I restrain something that becomes my like little payment for the guilt that I'm carrying. I'm putting in this piggy bank as a payment. Any self-restraint becomes that. Anytime person hurts themselves through some spiritual belief, that becomes this little payment for something there. And that is a result of also background anxiety, the habitual anxiety. So we need to figure this out, how to break this habitual anxiety. Let's create the domain, how we talked about in the previous streams. We created the safe domain in which a person can experience different quality of life. Start exercising something that's not anxiety, some more peaceful thing. And observe there how I connect with my body then. Because anxiety separates from your body. separates you from feeling grounded in the body, which is useful for fight or flight indeed. When your pain tolerance increases, you don't notice that. You know how girls can also, in the heat of passion, there are moments when you're super into music, super into dancing, you cannot notice how your feet in the heels, in super painful heels, are in pain. You don't feel that because your mind is there. Your mind is everywhere right now. You are in this dance, and yes, your body is performing something, is led by your this passionate perception of music. It's in this flow. So some pain is not noticed. Your receptors are already overloaded. You're already in some like different operation mode. And that's what happens with anxiety, that's what happens with background stress. There could be pain that's not noticed because everything is overloaded already. Servicing survival basically. So we need to teach a person, give the person safe space to feel something that's not survival. Like restful. So imagine some natural humans just laying in the sun near the bank of the river, enjoying after a good hunt, after a good meal. Their tummy's full. They're full of pleasure. They want to love each other and just be restful. That's the metaphor that comes to mind, or illustration for that state. This is a very common affliction among religious people, this feeling of pervasive filth. Many Christians in particular suffer this way, but it's not the universal state of affairs, thankfully. Yeah, I know that. I know Christians who are very happy, who found the way to embody themselves with that belief, when it's not in conflict. But Christianity, again, when it becomes that thing where I'm bad, I'm inherently bad, there is this, original sin as the foundation, which is guilt, which is manipulation. Then there is this virginity, save the virginity no matter what. Super neurotic attitude around that thing. Holding on to something. Remember, when we're holding on to something, we're not allowing the river flow of life to pass through us fully. We're not moving with the flow of life fully. That's another metaphor. When we have identity, when we have some belief, no matter what, believe. That's a scared thing. When we're holding on to something, river of life is flowing, tries to drag us in with different stimuli, which we try to reject, and we're just swinging like a little flag there. So yeah, that's that filthy part, to exculpate yourself. Yeah, I agree, that's a very common theme. I even know people who want to find, because they want to exculpate the sin of their father, they want to find a single mother to marry and rescue her. That's also done through some this belief that I will devote my life to exculpate for the sin of my father even. It's not just original sin. It's some bigger thing. There are things when there were you were a bad parent, for example. Suddenly realize, was bad parent. You want to exculpate your sin through some pain, through some thing. But there could be also more hygienic ways of doing that. It can be done through creative devotion, also using the same spiritual terms even. So it's not even that we're rejecting the spiritual thing. We need to functionalize it. We need to bring it in agreement. And we need to make it more eco-friendly, so to speak, such that the person doesn't use it as a cover-up or some mechanism of coexisting with the conflict. So instead of sacrifice, I propose a better word: devotion. Sacrifice, exculpation, they are like paying some credit card. They are just like coming out of debt. Devotion is that when you are expansively thinking about it. Yes, you messed up there and then. Devote your efforts to make things better. How about that? A lot of people have a mentality of exculpate for the guilt, exculpate for the pain that I've inflicted on someone. Then they go and they're sacrifice for something because I was such a bad person, or I will be living in this so filthy, so dirty, I will just be punishing myself for it my entire life. With religious fervor, nobody benefits from that. You only carry out more suffering into this world. Reframe it as devotion. Every single thing that I'm doing now, I will be using the fuel from my guilt. Yes, acknowledge that. That's what we achieve through accepting that. This is what we achieve through functionalizing this. This is what we achieve through actually facing those things. Yes, that happened, and now because this happened, I make a devotion. I'm looking in the stream of life. I'm not looking back. I'm not watching against the stream of life. I'm not going against my body. No. I'm taking what it is, turning it into the tool, grabbing all the energy that's locked into that, and turning it into devotion that grows. That's what people who are recovering from a lot of things, they go and perform charity. They create unions for people who experience certain things. They create a space for them. They create an organization where those people can recover, where those people can embrace new life. This is the example of devotion. When for your mistakes, you are starting, or for some things that you find filthy, you go on a bigger, more expensive, productive mission that allows with interest of the system of life that wants to flow, develop, flourish, enjoy, pulse, pass energy through, and just exist. So that's the thing. Reframe suffering, exculpation, payment, guilt into devotion. And this is the part of healing of people who use spirituality as the means for control, some payment, some escapism from something that they're not capable of facing on their own or functionalizing. How about this idea? Something about the way you explain things tell me you didn't get this from book. Is it experience? Largely experience, but I also studied. Ben? It's shame. Makes sense sinless. Quite so, sister. Like everything, it can be manifested productively and destructive. People lose sight of the forest for the trees and end up latching onto guilt. Back to being unkind to oneself. Distracted. Yeah. Please forgive my ineptitude today, sister. It must be one of those days. It's okay. I need to forgive myself, Enrique says. It's again, instead of forgiveness makes you focus on the guilt, okay? You can approach it from neutral perspective, take it as this happened, and turn it into devotion. Devotion can be, for example, even for people who experience dysfunctional relationships. You devote your new behavioral patterns to your happiness, for example. Because forgiveness, all these things, they all focus on that thing. They're also kind of retroverted in a way. If you know what I'm saying. Because I understand what you're saying. I'm just being picky because I'm trapped in my own stream of thinking right now. Nah, I rather feel sorry for myself. Do they have dopamine in IV format? They probably do. But I don't know. Feeling sorry for yourself is like learned helplessness almost. In the religious notion, I love the notion, the concept of humans being the hand of God, the operational unit of God. Because you have consciousness that's as close to the creative consciousness that God possessed. Because we're capable of deciphering the universe, and we have curiosity, and we have natural interest to decipher the universe and life and the origins of life. So with that capacity, you cannot be sorry for yourself when you claim this responsibility if you believe in God, that God gave you this responsibility. Because you're empowered by nature, nature's codes gave you this thing. Nature gave you this capacity, which means that it plays some role. I love the way you think. Thanks so much. And so yeah, we are if we summarize, people with those like spiritual life as escapism control. We create for them the domain in which they can be comfortable, and people who are following the practices also, yeah, make sure to sign up for Tantra workshop. It's on my website, because we're going to practice some things, and we're going to continue that in our close circle of people who already started practicing things. So you're signing up for the workshop, for the chosen one, on my website. So one of the practices we did is to create domain in which we can grow new way of psychological functioning gradually. Then for this person who is escaping into the thing, we start conversational therapy, philosophical therapy, where we start acknowledging the things that they're trying to escape, and we're trying to find other facets of them. Like an example with an aggression. I worked with a person whose mother was very aggressive, very vocal, very loud, expressive woman. This person is unable to associate with that expressive womanhood, but wants to be a leader. So there is a deep conflict that disables her from being able to perform what she wants to do. Because what she knows is that an expressive woman is an abusive bitch who is just there using her strengths to abuse someone little. That's what she knows about female like strength and power, expressiveness. That's it. So with that person, the functionalization of this thing was to find the facets of this expressiveness that are revealed in a beautiful form. Who expresses themselves? Let's look at maybe some singers on stage. They're very beautifully expressing themselves. They're singing, they're using their voice, and everybody has this energy pump. They're in beautiful costume, they're creating art. Okay, cool. So it exists. There is a domain in which this female expressiveness, this even aggressive, like very sexual, very fiery, feminine energy, is good. It's not abusing a kid. This energy is actually creating something cool that people can enjoy. It creates this space, which is empowering, which awakens some constructive energies. So we do this thing where we functionalize this conflicted part. We find how it can be reimagined. What about it? Because yeah, with body conflict, with sexuality conflict, is it true that all sexuality is dirty? No, likely a girl who has some conflict, who is scared of her sexuality, who is scared, for example, who feels like sexuality is impure, she probably will bring up at least something from a fairy tale. That some Prince Charming is very kind, is very caring, and makes it like a beautiful act of love, instead of something dirty about it. So there will be some comfort zone about this relationship, where it can be found to be beautiful. Even if you did something in the past, it also can be functionalized. Every trait that led to doing something also can be functionalized. So there are ways that exist in humans' mind. There are images oftentimes that are just when you just allow them to go outside of some stereotype that is dominant in their mind, it always will find something else. Because one of the typical automations that humans have is generalization, or fixating on some one thing that gave the strongest impression once and forever. But when we start looking at reality in its breadth, when we start walking out to see as many things as possible, we suddenly see that, oh, okay, there are more options actually. And I can actually choose. And this, oh, we start shopping. Like, this applies to me actually. I like this one. I actually quite enjoy this. Nice, I never thought about it. Was it always possible? Really? Yes, it was. It creates fire that burns when it touches, what it touches. what do you refer to? So we start exploring, we start going shopping for like what else is in there. And then our third approach, right? We're in the second approach to start functionalizing these things. Then we can turn them into devotion. What devotion can you do? Instead of holding on to something, how can we devote our efforts? How can we take energy locked in this conflict? How can we devote creatively, use creative power? And this is how a person stands on their creative rails. This is how everything comes in balance. This is how everything becomes a stream of life. Everything becomes a tool. Person gets more and more embodied. I think you would make a good James Bond girl. Thank you. Never thought about it this way. And this is when I illustrate all that, it's a really simple thing from the outside. The formulas are quite simple. When you think like what Tantra is about, how Tantric work works. No, this is approximately how it works. But boy, how many tools we have. How many different specifics each person has. How many different situations, how many different outlooks, how many different approaches there are that will apply to different people. So it's quite a creative experience each time, even though every situation can be broken down to just an array of seemingly typical things. But underneath there's always some story. And perhaps the hardest thing is to work with people with EDs, actually. Because there is actually, the conflict becomes a part of the physiological functioning. So when there is a deep-rooted adaptation to certain style of eating, even when it is not productive style of eating, that's when the body is no longer your ally. This is when you as a therapist, you start dealing with a very powerful machine that will prevent a human from, for example, achieving at least baseline biological health and wellness. So that's the trickiest thing, perhaps, because this is when you cannot build even a foundation for high quality psychological work right off the bat, because there is some part that sabotages that. There is some part that is fully adapted to consuming, for example, 3 apples a day and that's it. So the person eats 3 apples a day if you tell them that, if you just tell them without any tricks, that you need to start eating not just 3 apples, eat some fish, eat some meat, people will not be able to do this. Because their body can be already at the stage at which it requires some supports. So this is where things become a little bit different, because there is already a very, very, very fundamental biological thing going on. I just love the way you talk. Do you speak with so much inflection? Thank you. You're adorable. Thank you. Part of the therapy, by the way, huge part of Tantra therapy, just as with psychotherapy, is to legalize emotions and feelings as well. Because also with spirituality, oftentimes there will be prohibition of certain emotions as well. And that's where we also do this functionalization work. Like a cute puppy dog. I got it from my puppy dog, I guess. Thank you. A little bit of everything, but not too much of one thing. Thank you. I'll have a drink. I'll take more questions, comments, topics. Perhaps I got my pensive countenance from my cat. Yeah. Yeah, let's take a break, guys. I'll just rest for a minute. If you want to learn anything about Tantra, feel free to ask questions. I need a therapist. Would you mind helping me through my BS? I don't mind that. I mean, if you want to work with me, go ahead and book on my website. Yeah, this has been an intense one. What do you think about downloading the human mind into a computer? The funny thing is that in my Italian textbook, in my reading trainer, I just had a story about that exact thing. That is about downloading human mind into, but it was, I think, vice versa. It was downloading all human heritage, all library of human heritage into a human. It's actually very synchronistic. This will give me a writing, yeah. I said that they're trying to do that, mapping the human brain. I mean, it's an inevitable part of human development, I think, through our curiosity, to fuse those things, because we create intelligence based on what we understand about intelligence. So, I don't think anything of it. I don't know if I will be the one who will be taking advantage of that necessarily, but why not? I'll be back in a few. Meanwhile, take care, friends. Writing break, I did me. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Feels good. Actually, it's so hot. I forgot I usually open the window because for some reason when even I like film videos, like short videos, in front of the lamp, my lamp is LED, so it's not the lamp. In general, just speaking makes me feel so hot. My energy goes. I become very exothermic, I guess, when I speak. Deliver, you know. And because I didn't open the window today, I'm just baking here. Kiwi, if you're still here, by the way, have you had a chance to experiment with practice from yesterday? I'm just looking through my notes, and actually, just like my glance caught this phrase: search for your personal style. There's no right or wrong. There no you may or may not. There's only something that's effective or not effective. So you become your own researcher in your own lab. So that's something that I just read and I decided to ask you. It's what reminds me of that. Dante Hall, what's your thoughts on the woman role in Earth, also men? A woman and man role on Earth, I mean, there's biological role. Let's distribute it this way. Man and woman, or female and male, are necessary for biological conception. So that's biological things. All other roles were built in general. anthropologically based on resource acquisition efficiency. That's it. So everything we know about social norm regarding male and female is based on the efficiency of acquiring resources. There is nothing to it. So on Earth, I don't think that there is any point in existence in general other than existence itself. So I don't think that there is some global role, but there are adaptations that are necessary for survival. And then as humans started building more complex communities, as humans started developing settlements and hierarchies, societies, then the roles of men and women, they started becoming something else. And for every tribe out there, there will not be a standardized formula. There are tribes that do all sorts of polygamy, different styles of polygamy. There are tribes that practice arranged marriages. There are tribes that practice for example, the leader of the tribe gets the women, for example. There are a bunch of different scenarios that vary from country to country, from tribe to tribe, from depending on how developed or how archaic the society is, and so on. And the more abstract we get on the scale of how we acquire resources, which right now it's very abstract, because people make money through abstract system, and money itself is an abstract thing. The more abstract they become, the more fluid it becomes. Because you don't seek resources directly from nature, you seek resources through abstract systems. So you can imagine anything of yourself. You have time to churn your creativity from, for example, building tools for hunting or building shelter. You can locate your creativity into things that are more abstract, more sophisticated. And I don't believe in that there is some predefined male and female role. I think that everyone, depending on their biological makeup, their character traits, their talents, should choose what they want to do. Because I personally, some things where me, my womanity, my femininity affects things is that I don't want to work, for example, last day of my cycle. Or first day of my cycle, depending on how I feel. So I would want to have one day off of work. So in the workforce, if I was to regard myself as a contributor to the workforce, I would be in this system, this abstract system, I would want to have that advantage. I would be voting for it. Otherwise, there is nothing about that fact that I'm a female affects my interactions with the systems. I have a human experience. I am a human experience. The fact that I'm female influences me in no way in the systems outside of my biological life. And same attitude I hold for males, for men. To me, it's very artificial and very comical when men try to appear something. When men try to be like, the most cheesiest expression of manhood that I've witnessed was males sitting in leather couches with whiskey like this and with cigars. And they're talking about politics. That's the cheesiest thing that men invented for themselves as the climax of modern masculinity and social success in the Western world. I find it comical personally. If someone likes it though, it's totally cool. But for me, it's not like something that I see and I'm like, oh, how masculine, oh my god, I feel so romantically agitated right now, wow. It doesn't work like that. So, I don't know. I can't comment on that. There's no general rule, I don't think. If you had a little boy as a son, and this boy... Some hypothesis, let's not talk about that. Yes, I'm still here, madam, just reviewing. Thank you. Like Jesus, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you think about reincarnation? Do you have a favorite video game? If do, which one? Is it, I'm just curious. Video game, I don't play video game. I played Sims when I was little, but... Do you think a cat would need to learn how to be a cat? Listen to already know to what to do. Well, I mean, animals, they have instincts. The higher animals get in their intelligence, the less they're bound to instincts. But cats, yeah, they imprint certain behavioral patterns plus the instincts because they are more aware than some mollusks, but they're still led by natural ingrained behaviors. What do you think about reincarnation? I don't believe in reincarnation, but again, because I can't, it's not provable. I cannot hold this belief. There are cases in which children, for example, are born and they are talking about some past lives. They talk about that they were this person in the past, but I can't believe in that. My stance holds true that soul is electromagnetic property that's produced by our brain, and hence it's not removable from the brain function. But it may be the medium between the brain and some overall electromagnetic thing, or like field of consciousness. So that's how I perceive it. So replanting souls, I might assume that there could be some biological ways of doing that, but I don't think that it is some thing that can be just like moved from place to place. I practiced the switching method yesterday, but I want to start the 5 times a week on Monday to have an organized schedule. Super cool. Thank you. God is important. Without God, I'm just another madman. So God makes you special. Why do you want to feel special? Why do you need some external thing? And why, what, like, special for whom? Special in which domain? Like, what is, whose eyes are requiring you to be viewed as special? Because when you have any concept about yourself, the concept is external. Your experience from within is where you feel yourself. When you have any concept about yourself, this is external, which means that you're looking at yourself through somebody else's eyes, or through the eyes of some part of your personality that you have. It's the split. So why do you need this observer that has a concept about yourself? What is it about? Do you feel life from within? Can you embody yourself and just experience life? Or do you want to hold on to something to appear a certain way? Or to hold on to some concept about yourself? What is it about? I'm in love with your mind, thank you. I'm a rock hound. I like looking for gold-bearing rocks. Yes, that's my update so far with the method. Thank you, Kivam. Good to know. In the workshop, if you sign up on my website, it's just put your YouTube handle, I guess. I had a couple of people signed up yesterday, and I will be sending more information on that, because those workshops will be just like a few people, I imagine. I'm planning on doing maybe once a week for an hour and a half, where we'll be just going through practices, testing them out, such that everyone can try them and go through the program to get like samples of different things. And then the workshop that I have on my website, it's a ritual, tantric ritual, and that is to try the ritual that I described, where we are rewriting some ill concepts in our mind, replacing them and healing them and rewriting them with productive concepts. So that's my idea for that workshop that will be to come, as to just like jump into it, and then people can try this thing, they can give their feedback, exchange like a little club, and then I'll see. Maybe it will be material sent out if workshop will not work out, if we cannot just connect all, I don't know, we'll see how organization will work. I remember a dream when I was a kid so vivid that what is the type of dream of no little kid should be having? Kids are also impressionable in a sense. The fact that you didn't process it as a child in an active form does not mean that you didn't experience it. A lot of times children expel certain impressions that are too much for their psyche to handle. So it might not be surprising that you had an imprint in your head. You could have overheard something, oversaw something, and then it created you a dream. And that's the way psyche tried to process it. But we compile those things, even like, some magical dreams, something that people ascribe to some spiritual things. If you look at what humans' imagination throws out there, we have huge heritage actually, mythological things. Humans have always built this mythological worlds with very vivid imagery. So our life is infused with things that are the fruit of our fantasy. And that's not surprising that children would have certain impressions that they depict, especially even if in the household some certain things are discussed or said. The fact that you just didn't register it rationally doesn't make it impossible that you captured it unconsciously. It's not much, but I'm going to make progress, I believe. Don't press yourself, Kiva. Don't press yourself. Just do it in your own pace. I'm asking just because of curiosity. I'm not asking it as a strict teacher. No, no way. So Kiva, please relax and do it in your own pace, in enjoyment. If something doesn't sit well with you, don't do it. Again, if you had some vigor to experiment with a particular part of it, maybe you had some findings, just share that if you wish. But it's not supposed to be a chore. It's not supposed to be some crazy discipline. It's good to be consistent with it for sure for results, but it's not necessary to force yourself to do that. Back in brief, I had full-blown night terrors when I was a kid. Can still remember the last one I had, which happened at age 10, 13, 1 years ago. Yeah, yeah. That's, I think, yeah, that's how children's psyche oftentimes operates. Okay, understood. Thank you for clarification, madam. Yeah, Kiva, yeah, we're here to cultivate pleasant lifestyle, joy forward. To keep this in mind. To continue with you don't believe, but having belief in something you don't see is an act of faith. But that will be a great reward at the right time. Wouldn't that be believing? It's having faith in something, for example, the success of something, as opposed to believing that it will happen. Having faith, to me, translates into willingness to take an action. So when I have faith that something will work, to me it feels like I feel like I take an action towards it. I don't dwell on that. I don't need a belief because belief will create a burden for me. When I have faith that something will work, it's an intuitive feeling that it's the right thing to do, and I'm just taking actions towards it. That's it. That's how I differentiate them. Belief means that I put an extra potential there. I put an extra burden. I put some mental shell on it. Some rigid thing that makes me rather anxious about it than willing to take an action. That's a big distinction between the two. I'm glad you asked about that because it's interesting to clarify that even for my own self. I was dreaming of horses, fire, and weapons like knives and whips. No, what are the adventure things presented to children? Through books, through movies, through cartoons. When it comes to tasks or trying new things, method I have a set mindset to trying not to overdo can be tough because sometimes I don't realize it, but I can do it. Yeah. Yeah, achieve, hyperachieve. Yeah, that mentality is very dear and familiar to a lot of us. I will relax. When I was doing my homework in Tantra course, once I was like, I will try better to relax. My teacher was like, don't you hear the contradiction in your phrase? When you're trying hard to relax, I'll do it, I'll do it. I'll relax hard right now, guys. Just you turn everything into sport. Anything is, I will try not I will do. I will try not, I will do. Yeah. Forgive me for using a martial arts analogy, but it's what I know. Belief is sitting on the couch and thinking you can stick something from across the room. Faith is, I know, the limit of message length. Faith is right. It's almost like competitive mindset. Yeah. Yeah. When we try to force things in, let's remember I was talking about, like, as a tantra coach, tantra therapist. For me, it's a thing too. It's my personal thing to not achieve and hyperachieve in therapy, but to create space. And even like for personal work, also, it's like create space. Create space for process to happen, as opposed to forcing process to happen. Do it, like this attitude. Its opposite is like, let inhale it, like we did in healing thoughts. It's similar concept to that. You inhale the process and let it happen, and you distance yourself, you create space. And that's such a cool tool, because I am fully with you on achieve and hyperachieve. That was my entire life. It was my entire lifestyle. I was in dancing. In dancing, you know what our teacher would tell us? Push until your aorta explodes. When I was 5. That was our teaching in dance school. So, with that mindset, yeah, you just grow up, and then school, it's also quite intense. In university, it's also quite intense. And just get accustomed to that, but nature doesn't work on those laws. It lives on balance. Faith is being willing to let go of the blade, knowing that it needs to stick, and that if it doesn't stick, there will be ramifications. Somewhat, perhaps, if I understand you correctly. Yeah, you refocus yourself into action, and it turns into faith is a belief in an actionable form, perhaps. It's like when I say I will try my best instead of saying I will do my best. Kind of double thinking, second thinking, or guessing. Double thinking or guessing. Go back to the subject at hand. What is the subject at hand? Something about tantras. That's all tantric too. Achieve and hyperachieve mindset and how to change it to creating space for stuff is very tantric, in fact. Because the psyche, when you come and you try to change something about your psyche, you try to bend it, twist it, screw it in the same ways as every trauma that a person endured that brought them to dysfunctional lifestyle. And so it's very important to approach it from the perspective of just let other things be. All we do in Tantra, if you noticed, is we step back and we create space for more things. We're just pursuing more expensive life. Because the trap of life is that people develop automations. Very useful feature of the brain, but when it's multiplied by some negative things, by some negative I mean not practical, harmful, impeding, oppressive things, when automations multiply by those things, that's when a human stops being able to live high quality life, stops being able to live full spectrum of life. And there are consequences for that. As we discussed previously, the consequences of splitting between mind and body, inability to experience pleasant emotions, anhedonia, chronic stress, and so on. That also translates then to physical manifestations that can be of wide spectrum, let's say. From hormonal to immunity and so on. So when we think about Tantra, everything that is, when it's expansive, it's stepping back, it's seeing fuller picture, it's developing your own internal self-perception to be broader, more diverse, allowing yourself things, allowing yourself experiences, training your emotional spectrum to allow more emotions, higher intensity emotions, and that's how it works. That's in the essence of tantra. On the one hand, it's diffusion. On the other hand, puts you on your path. So this diffusion allows you to stick on your path as fluidly and effortlessly as possible. You know, this is this paradox. You expand, you broaden your spectrum to be able to live in this narrow balance, this beautiful balanced life. Such like contrast between the two. What this approach leads to. This approach leads to this ultimate harmony. Remember how we started with that my idea, perception of the world as this statistical system. So a statistical system of so many diverse elements living in equilibrium. And that is where the balance is found. This like spark of existence that is this statistical equilibrium of so many compounding things coming together to create this symphony of life, this perfect harmony. It's a very beautiful idea if you focus on it. Life exists on this tiniest blade. The balance. Very crisp, very refined equilibrium of so many things suddenly coming together. You know? I live in Washington State and want to get drunk with you. I don't drink. Spoiler, I'm already halfway there. Sure. Enjoy. I guess these conversations are something that's typically discussed. You know, people create context for everything. It's so funny too. I have very amazing video, by the way, in my vegan era. The video is about how human is a carnivore with empathy. And that brings up this topic of human contexts. How our mind, one of the automations, is that depending on the context, we completely switch our perception of things. And the analogy that I was giving there, like imagine you're at the work meeting and everybody's sitting there discussing some problem. Maybe like you got called out on something and somebody turns on like black and orange website. And you will not get any excited about because the context is not conducive of you switching into this mood, even though there is stimulus of that kind. Same way humans, you know, they will say that, oh, how is it to... people don't recognize their empathy towards predators, for example. But humans are too well fed nowadays to pursue this aggression and hunt. But humans who live in nature, they have rituals. They create context for them to hunt. So this is the context. Modern humans sublimate it through games, like for example competitive games like soccer, hockey. They'll chase this ball, they pursue this target. That's to imitate that thing. That's outsourcing the hunt in a more like humanized, this refined fashion. But those contexts, they exist. And for example, people will be like, oh, this is a drinking party, so I can be, even though alcohol is a depressant, the mere context that people know that alcohol is associated with ha 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 ha, being silly, that mere thing makes this depressant suddenly work as people doing ha 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 and discussing certain things or revealing their deep truths, you know? But it's a stereotype of perception. I remember once I was with my friends and I decided to just buy myself an espresso instead of a glass of wine. I had the same exact neurological reaction to espresso as I normally would have to a wine in the same environment, because I built an expectation that I gave this coffee the placebo of that special potion that will put me in the mood. I had the same exact things, even hangover. I even had headache after that. And that was exact same thing. with the headache being headache not from alcohol, but headache being from excitement, overly excited state. Because there's a blip before alcohol becomes a depressant, it has this high excitement, like abnormal level of excitement. So I triggered that excitement and had headache afterwards, which was not induced by the exogenous chemistry, but by my internal chemistry from this hyper excitement that I created by knowing that this ritual, this beverage, this potion will give me this mood in which I will become the clown in the company. I catch and release my spiders, but I will squeeze a medium rare steak like a sponge for the buttery blood. Yeah. That's actually that we do. Sometimes we become hyper aware of how cute this animal is. It's slightly different crowd, it seems, on the weekend, and I need to watch some of your long form offerings. They sound most interesting. Carnivores with empathy. So, are you making through today's environment of living the elements of the way of the economy produce life? So, are you making through today's environment of living the elements of the way of the... It's hard to decipher a little bit. I agree, Shuriken. On the weekends, the crowd does seem different. Quite so. Yeah, but you gotta take a hit of the spliff, then you'll be okay. What? What? I don't know what this lingo is. This is the danger of coffee. I love coffee. Hello, Chris, by the way. Good to see you. Good thing I'm a tea drinker, yeah. Dante Hall. I'm not sure what you mean, to be honest. No, I'm not into... I'm sorry, like, it's tricky. I don't associate with that. It's not interesting for me. Tantra, by the way, if you do end up working with me, 3 days prior to any practices, you need to be fully sober without any substances that are mind-altering. 3 days at least. Because all substances are sitting there in place of something. They're playing some function that your psyche cannot keep up with on its own. Madam doesn't use any substances. She doesn't, indeed. By the way, just going through the notes, I remembered this thing, on the subject of our topic, on the subject of this live stream today. One of the objectives of tantric work is to cultivate analytical thinking in the client. That's one of the objectives. Analytical thinking. To actually go back, go away, or create a domain in which there's rational perception, analytical perception, critical perception of reality. When we're not just locking ourselves in some worlds of myths and so on. That's why my psychiatrist was upset. I imagine they would be, because use of substances is self-inflicted psychosis, self-inflicted schizo and stuff. People are using earth components, elements that are the same as you're saying from that form life. Yes? Sure, yeah, I mean, of course. We don't have, like, everything we have comes from nature, comes from the elementary particles that have originated through super blessed energy in the very beginning. diffused into atoms that constitute the world. The psychiatrist was gay and he painted his nails. Good for him if he enjoyed it. Okay, review now. I have about, I think, almost close to 20 pages of notes. I think I kind of lost count. That's impressive amount of information. Yeah, lots of information. I'm glad. I'm glad we're only, by the way, I started streaming 10 days ago. My first stream was 10 days ago. So, couple of them were very like introductory and all over the place. Several of them were. So it's a really cool, actually, cool density of things. I will probably need to, maybe, I don't know. I need to find some formats for live streams specifically to embrace the broader audience. What do you want? What do I want? What do you want? Me? My handwriting started to change. I guess that goes to show the dedication. Super cool. When did you first start studying Tantra, sister? I started studying it. How often? Let me explain. Answer this. How often are you do live stream? I do live streams on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday are my days off. But I want to see, maybe I will just start streaming less frequently. I look at my stats, how people are joining, engaging, because, for example, we have Kiva, we have Shuriken Zone. I don't want guys to be overwhelmed. They join every time. Kiva, in general, keeps track of everything, does all the practices that I give. And Kiva also needs time to process. So live streams, they kind of, part of the purpose is to make them a discovery in which people can kind of like go hit into my thinking style, get exposed to my thinking style and how I approach problems, get introduced to my method, to start like getting the taste, the flavor of what I do, and perhaps get answers to their problems, how to start approaching their issues when it becomes a way, kind of like a public consultation style. So that's what live streams are addressing. At the same time, yeah, the frequency, I want to be efficient, I want to be interesting. So maybe there will be changes to schedule. But right now, it is every day at this hour, except for Sunday and Monday. But now that I have my more intimate circle workshops coming, I need to organize that. I need to organize my newsletter now that there are people who are actually tightly working with me on practices. And I have my personal consultations, so I will have to gradually dial back or make my streams shorter perhaps. So it will be changing, but not significantly so. When did you first start studying Tantra? If we take the systemic approach of it, it was a year ago. When it was like the course. But I have been studying this thing for over 10 years on my own. This was just, I wanted to receive, first of all, coaching certification, such that I know how to work with the client as opposed to just do practices. And also I wanted a framework where I could get all the knowledge, all the practices, how to work with the brain, how it all connects, and so on and so forth. So it was a systematic thing for me. But overall, I was training my brain to think in this way for over 10 years prior to that. The YouTube algorithm is a wicked mistress, from all I can tell. I hope it's kinder to you than it is for me. I think it disliked something from the second to last video and penalized my last video for that. I understand that. I mean, it's very unpredictable. I don't know. I've been doing YouTube for so long. I haven't cracked the code. I just know that people who do like straight outrageous things or something very popular or repeat trends, they quickly can rise to fame. Maybe it's something that needs to be done just for marketing's sake. I don't know. I don't understand how it works. I can't say that it's not consistent. Yeah, that's what I noticed. You can't predict. I remember I experimented once my video when I was raw vegan. It went sky high out of nowhere. I made the same exact video, same exact style of video, same exact like shell, thumbnail approach, no, all of the things, and it had like 100 times less views, or 100, like 10 times less views, 40 times less views, and was one of the worst performing videos. So I have no clue. So what do I want? I want to answer this question. What do I want? In general, I want something that's my lack is I want to just live closer to nature, closer to the environment, be an environment which is conducive of nature lifestyle. That's what I really want. That's my authentic desire. If I imagine that, like, want that thing that I crave, it's very naturalistic, very simple desire to literally live in nature. More creative desires, something that's more of the higher tier. I want my project, I want my human renaissance to flourish, but I don't want it. I work for it. So that's why it's not in my want plane. It's what's happening plane. That's why I can't tell it as my desire. I don't feel like thinking about it. There are desires that are just happening. I'm working on them. That's why it's like faith and belief. I cannot even like talk about them. I cannot put them in my wish list. I know that I'm working for them. So everything I want, I work for. How to remain so calm and how do remain so calm and locked in? Do you mean how do I remain so calm and locked in? Please clarify. BXN. Fascinating. You're a formal study, but a decade of practice. The Actually, you know how I was studying so many things, trying so many meditations, but I never was adhering to a system in which I needed to carry out notes, self-reflection on every practice, being super dedicated to practice. Because when I was doing Tantra, I had practice every single day. So it worked like within the span of this course, which was half a year course, I practiced so much and I realized how this stuff actually works. Because when you just go on YouTube and you're like, oh, this meditation, try this meditation, try that meditation, try this approach, try this method of thinking. Method of thinking gradually changes, but certain things they don't. Even I was experiencing psychotherapy. Psychotherapy even did not change a lot of the things in me. Some shifts happened, but actual change did not follow. Certain like things, patterns were still there. I just felt like some of my desires, like aggression was legalized, right? Like what they do, they allow you to express aggression, play it out, and so on. But fundamental things were sometimes they were brought up, but they never like settled in me. I gained some perspective on things, but I didn't know how to work with it. Okay, I have a perspective. I'm more chill about something, but at the core, it still bugs me. So that's how it felt. With Tantra, it was impressively effective because when you're obliged to report on your progress and your insights every day, and your curator, your teacher, like tells you that, oh, reflect on that, do this, do this, do this, try this, try this, try this. When you start getting introduced, we also started doing supervision style work in which we would receive client cases and then we do break down those client cases. That also changed my approach to work because I worked with customer support, like research customers in the tech company. That was one thing. But in Tantra, it was like, oh my God, there's so much to actually learn in how to work with clients, work with people, communication styles. When your ego kind of withdraws and you start actually being able to see a human in front of you, as opposed to some larva who is struggling to live their life. So it's a lot of interesting things. Um, it's always mysterious. Algorithm, I guess. Depends on location, politics, and who controls algorithm. I was voted for the guy most likely to live by himself in the woods. They meant it as a diss. Senior year book stats. Yep, I'm demonstrating an endangered and difficult art. Okay, numbers. Mr. Shuriken takes a bit of flipping an egg in a pan, huge numbers. But thankfully I just do it for fun. Same with misses. And that's good. I mean, that's good to have good perspective. But then it's also, it can be a creative task. I started approaching like creative task. Let me try. This question, if it is my priority task, for example, to hit certain metrics or to uh, build the core audience or whatever. I need to be discovered, right? So I need to do it. And I always ask myself, did I do everything I could for that? And always time, almost always, it's like, no, you haven't tried this one. No, you weren't devoted here. No, you didn't have dedication here. So, but at the same time, I understand that the algorithm kind of keeps you hooked. So there's this vicious part of it because the platform wants you to put content, and you also need to be mindful that about the goals that you're pursuing in that. Can you please shout out my uncle Phil McCracken? He's in a retirement home. Shout out to Phil McCracken. I don't know if it's some reference because people like to troll me. I'm absolutely not in the loop for modern culture. I don't know any pop culture, so people just throw some things that make me sound silly because there are some names, there are some characters, and if you some statements, some codes that when you pronounce them, you like look silly. So if you inflicted that on me, it's on you. But no, I did what I think was a kind deed. What's your thoughts on the eating of the fruit? Cause natural sin. I mean, it's human curiosity. It's totally natural property. We're there for discussion of Satanism. How Satan was the one who was the entity that brought gnosis to people. Because our curiosity and the pursuit of knowledge. Let me put my thing. Our curiosity and pursuit of knowledge are something that busts our innocence. And innocence is where we experience life in the most purest form, which is paradise, the Garden of Eden state. So that's the contrast there. When we have curiosity, when we have gnosis, when we start comprehending nature around us, the world around us, trying to, that's what gives us more knowledge, and that's what gradually rids us of innocence about certain experiences. And then if you watch this video in replay, you will hear my stance on that, how to work with that, because our curiosity is obviously our natural power. People are always drawn to curious things, to trying things in nature, trying to work with the world, touch it, change it, build it. So it is something given. Interesting conversations to listen to as always. Thank you, Kiva. What do you think about eating of the fruit? If you have any position on that metaphor. Same, I see it as a creative task. Also, I'm driven by wanting to document the art of posterity. Document my own progress and putting it in a form I find interesting and maybe relaxing. That's it. Yeah, that's a beautiful, wholesome outlook, I think. Not that I'm like there to express my opinion on that, but um, I mean evaluation style opinion on that. I just want to feel. I want to express my the relatedness to that. Your videos are actually. I told you in the comment that your videos are very like impressive in some minimalistic way. The way you direct them, the way you create your videos is crazy. I feel like if you got, for example, I know that this is your current style, but it would be very interesting for me to see it in like 4K resolution with ambiance. It would be super cool to, but it's probably not, I don't know how possible it would be somewhere, I don't know, in some jungle to have that in 4K. Oh my god, it'd be crazy. You're welcome, madam. I just think I'm creative alpha here. You surely are. It's tricky. I think for what I have received, no means like I don't need of that tree fruit. I think for what I have received, no means like tree fruit. Raw, huh? What raw? Dark crypto. And what? Huh? I wish you could know. You could know. I have knowledge of my actual works before smirking as harshly as you did towards me. And, I mean, it's an interesting self-attribution that you're creative alpha. You know, it's why I did that is because it's as if like a beautiful woman was sitting and talking about how beautiful she is. It puts you in perspective again. It's instead of experiencing somebody's beauty into contemplating their concept about themselves, and that suddenly makes it more comical than it would be if that was not brought up. If that makes sense. To be obedient is success. Success is a man-made term. What is success? Success is you can identify it as anything. Being alive is success in the system of life. Everything else is anything that you made out of it. Thanks so much for the feedback, sister. I respect your opinions at this point, certainly, and I agree with you. My lighting and camera are terrible, I think. But in high res, it would be really cool. It would be, I mean, it was striking as it is, I should tell. Something about it is staged in such a way that you do deliver the power that you want to deliver there. So you actually hit the spot with it. The other things are more cosmetic and to appeal for broader audience perhaps, and I don't know what to expect from that. If you were to edit them in the same way in terms of like speed, how you slow things down, with then showing all the options that you're choosing from, that would be quite impressive. You can play with styles, I think, and you can achieve more probably psychological effects through that. God is the light, of course, and energy, invigorating energy. Being creative is more valuable than being pretty looking. For whom? Valuable for whom? Also concept. And again, it's I was mentioning it as an illustration that when you start characterizing yourself for something that everybody can appreciate without you mentioning that, it brings something that people had their own concept about into their awareness through some evaluation And yeah, it's not the contest between what's more valuable, but the fact that you pick on what's more valuable also is quite telling, I would say. But being creative perhaps is a sustainable gift because it can, given that you have enough discipline adaptations to exercise it, it can bring you more resources in more sustainable fashion. But being more valuable, I don't know. Okay, in better terms of speaking, obedience from the fruit conversion will have eliminate natural sin. I don't understand what's natural sin. What is it? What is sin? Sin is a man-made concept. Sin doesn't exist in nature. There's no sin. Sin would be anything that goes against life and nature. Sin in the human concept is a man-made thing. It's used for manipulation, guilt manipulation. So this concept in general is not worthy of discussing for me in general, because the term itself, the concept, is not substantiated by anything. It serves some system that I don't care to be a part of. Agreed 100%. Even if it's not my primary motivator, I would like to convey something palpable to whoever watches. Convey the energy of the art. Increased tech would certainly allow that. Perhaps. Perhaps. If you have a vision, it's cool to approach. If you already have a vision of how it would be, then it's worth doing that. If you feel enamored by the imagery that you would generate with that, that would be cool. But if you envision it in some other forms, then it is your art, and it will be your standard of beauty and how it should be, because you're the creator, you're the artist. I told you that it's already conveying, but perhaps more experimental freedom would be unlocked, more visuals, more play. In general, when you start tapping into different genres, different visual codes, you start looking at yourself, at your capabilities from a different angle. Because I noticed as a creator, I sometimes get stuck in the genre and I'm like, fool, doing that, kind of weird. Or, it's not my style. And then you don't even notice how you just get sucked into this, again, this dark tunnel type of thing, where you prohibit yourself certain possibilities. But when you start tapping into different visuals, for example, trying different imagery, different lighting, different experiments, then you suddenly start getting exposed to even more creative possibilities. So it like opens the vault, opens the door to embracing even more things, and you become more playful all over, altogether, in different areas. The hornet that implants eggs on the spider. Okay, how can you understand something if you don't be a part of it? There is no temptations with God. I don't understand the concept of original sin. I don't understand it. It's literally nature. It's literally curiosity. It's something that nature created. It's their brain. How can it be a sin if it's practical? Bible was written for peasants who are supposed to work in the fields, butt up in the sky all day, against their nature, eating unnatural food and coping with that, having hallucinations from all the fungus that grows on wheat, then drinking their life away, causing this psychosis in winter when it was outside of the season. So they needed this text in order to keep them submitted to people who owned everything. To create this patriarchal organization, and there's a patriarch in the governance of everything, and those slaves are servicing them. So they need to be numb, obedient, safe for the king, and producing without any complaints, while also having those mystical experiences driven by starting to use substances and inhaling this fungus from the crops. I think some form of spirituality aim to understand the universe than it is about escapism. There is a spiritual realm, I believe. Yes, there is. I was talking about in the beginning, my, may I call you Cabello, 7850, I'll call you 56, okay? My friend 56. I talked about in the beginning, yeah, that spirituality as an escapism or mechanism for control becomes such when there is a deep-rooted conflict in the person that they're not willing to deal with, or deep-rooted conflict between them and the environment. They cannot find their spot in the world, so they opt for spirituality as a beautiful form to contain this conflict, somewhat to rationalize this conflict, to explain things for themselves, while having some dysfunction going on. So instead of facing this dysfunction, working on it, embracing something, learn something, such people will go close themselves in the closet of the spiritual belief to justify their inability to act efficiently, their inability to reconnect with their body because body is filthy, you brought up that stuff. Instead of being able to go in their guilt, work on that, turn it into devotion, for example, as discussed as one of the means of therapy for such people. And that's when it's a problem. Spirituality, as in just connection with something, is not inherently dysfunctional. It can be used as a source. It can be used, like in my perception, it can be used as a source. It can be used as some like perceived guide, some truth, some deeper truth that does not require any words, that cannot be translated into any texts. It's just a feeling. It's a channel. It can be the guide, like it can be sensed as intuition. It can be sensed as my inner truth. It can be sensed as my inner compass. But then there's always this need for auditing that. Does this inner compass become oppressive? Does this inner compass is my justification for why I don't execute on something? Is this inner compass that I built for myself, does it promote the propagation of my neurosis about something or tries to conceal my neurosis? So those things need to be balanced, they need to be audited, revisited. Ooh, oh my god. So much in the chat. Hi, Selma. Raman Lul, it's the strong subject good read. Even mathematics indicates there must be God. God is, mathematics is language of so-called God. God as we understand it comes from our mind. It's a property of our mind. Mathematics is a property of our mind. How we comprehend world, it's the language of our communication description of the world. Of course, all of these will be in some way tied. Do you not like the Bible? If not, what book you like? I mean, I don't like one single book. I went through a lot of human heritage in the form of classical literature. I especially read a lot of French novelists and Russian literature, of course. I don't know. Books are all opinions and human experience. Thanks so much for your insight, sister. You're very insightful indeed. This is the first time that I'm actually considering upgrading the tech for increased artistic and energetic effect. Yeah, it's so cool if you have an opportunity. I bet that it's gonna open up much more than just the upgraded imagery. I bet that it's gonna be the beginning of something bigger. Raymond Lewis, philosophical book writer that wrote about the commonalities of nature and God. Why juxtapose them, commonality of nature and God? This is really worth note taking. We people of God should not get confused by people who are not able to have faith. I can save her. Funny but not funny enough. I picture Jesus smiling over this conversation. He does. He's number one. You're the reason I don't do something worse right now. I love Jesus. You're literally drinking. You're engaging in Satanism right now. You're telling Jesus that Your body is not worthy. The creation of your body, your mind, your pure mind, your crystalline, beautiful, pure mind, God-loving mind is worth being tormented by this substance. If you're drinking right now, indeed. So you confess love to Jesus by destroying, as you believe it, his creation. I'll have a better idea once I have consumed some of your long-form content. But in terms of your lives, I'd say that you have almost preternatural poise and eloquence. You communicate very clearly, naturally, and effectively. Thanks so much, Ricken. I want Jesus to be real. Okay, beautiful, brilliant, best. What? I don't care. Jesus said, drink in memory of me. Oh my god. Well, that's epic. That's epic. I don't know which. Oh my god. That's crazy. That's just absolutely fascinating. Donkey Man is strange. He's drinking. If he said that, I would question his intention for his followers, lol. If he said that, I would question his intention for his followers. Oh yeah, by the way, yeah, you're mentioning that Jesus encouraged drinking. Yeah, exactly, because again, the religion was built. This religion was built for peasants. Peasants worked in the field. Their only joy in life was drinking. Drinking was the thing. So if the drunker the people are, the less creative and strategic thinking they possess. That's a proven fact. Alcohol destroys your ability to think strategically. The less strategically and analytically you can think, the easier it is to manipulate you. The easier it is to manipulate you, the more willingly you will be giving in, surrendering your fruits of your work, and the less you will be interested in embracing your divine spark. And if it indeed was said so, that it is the proof that it is a slavery producing machine. Typically, spirituality also has therapeutic means, healing spiritual elements. So I don't think people are trying to engage in escapism if not looking for a healer in spirituality. Yes, that's very true. That's very true. But again, you hear me, please. The distinction between the two. There could be a lady, imagine a lady, older lady, who underwent something or never faced something in her life, decided not to, full of regret. For example, she did not organize her private personal life because perhaps she was scared, perhaps she had some belief that sex was dirty, that there was some conflict with her feminine biological part. She never engaged in that. At the age of 55, she ends up alone and totally separated from her body. She never embraced that. She never faced that problem. She never built healthy attachments with people. She never experienced anything she would fantasize about as a teenager. She never experienced this platonic love. She never experienced romantic love. She never experienced sexual love. She knows that it was sometime a desire, but there was some blockage on the way there. And this lady finds a guru, finds some spiritual school that tells her that she is a crystalline, ascended, pure being who is not supposed to be living in this filthy earth, in this filthy world. So this lady will be pursuing this belief with this glance. Found truth. Indeed, I am a crystalline woman who never was meant to live this way. That's the ultimate truth. So she keeps living with that neurosis, with that regret, with that thing buried, never having fulfilled what she really wanted. Healthy attachments, healthy realization, connection with her sexuality, to experience life fully, to allow emotions, to allow feelings. Is it therapeutic? In the moment, yes. It is surely, because it gives her some salvation. It's like this stick that you can hold on to. Is it going to bring results in life that are fully satisfactory, fully embodied, fully what was wanted deep inside sometime before. No. And so if a person, it's kind of oftentimes delays the inevitable. Unless a person somehow is blessed to continue living this way till the day they die. Oftentimes it doesn't happen this way. Sometimes they're still getting thrown in the situations in which they're facing this choice, whether to abandon this belief in some way, find other adaptation, or to keep living this way against their desire. It's always the conflict in this case. Very deep conflict, in fact. Stubborn creative force at work. Seems evil. Yeah, exactly. That encouragement to take substances. Hell, so me tomorrow. Birthday, Sukumo. The same. Whatever. How are you doing? Thank you. I'm doing really well. How are you? This calls to mind something that I often think about. In terms of communication, I find it much more constructive to assess the person I want to communicate with than try to do you know any Bible verses? Oh my God. Do you know any ancient Hebrew, by the way? Okay, so let's continue. I find it much more constructive to assess the person I want to communicate with than try to meet them halfway, so to speak. In short, I look for commonality rather highlighting difference. That is how two people can have a constructive meeting of minds, or so I find. Yeah, that's fair. I agree with you. I've been stuck on this religion topic for a good minute. Yeah, Kiva. Why do you get upset? What is that energy? That energy is the energy of... First of all, it's not pleasant to interact with people under substances because you know that you're not you bring your authenticity to them, they bring their augmented thing, so it's not an even talk. And then the second thing, why it upsets me, why it gives me this energy, it's not an upset energy, it's rather tired energy because I want to ignore it, but I don't ignore it. So I'm halfway to being just ignore it because I have got exposed to it enough times already to understand that this is something that it should be ignored. At the same time, I like to give people attention, perhaps because of some of my trauma, perhaps of some of my adaptations in life, that I keep reacting to that, I keep responding to that, I make it seen. But strategically, it doesn't make sense. So, another thing is, by the way, that I noticed, I just had a lot of meetings with a lot of zombies who did not have, who they try to communicate with you, but you understand that, especially like in veganism, you talk to people and you see that it's not a person. It's not a person, it's a tentacle of a cult. They use the same lingo, they use the same concepts, there's nothing new. You meet them as a person, but they represent themselves as a tentacle of a cult. So you realize that you're not speaking to an actively working consciousness. You're speaking with a person who is representing a cult. It's like somebody from MLM comes to you and they're like, have you tried our shampoo? Or, and they start like talking you into buying their shampoo through all sorts of marketing strategies. That's the same level of irritation. You first meet them, they smile at you, you're like, something is off, but okay, let's talk. And then you realize that all of their niceness, all of them coming to you, was to sell their fucking shampoo. And you feel like I just wasted time talking to someone who did not see me as a human, whose idea was not to show themselves as a human, whose idea was not to have a human exchange, but to sell me fucking shampoo. That's what the irritation comes from. That's where I feel it this way. Because every single stream, every single encounter, there's always this thing throwing me quotes from this textbook for certain demographics of people, throwing me these quotes to hide themselves behind this authority from their marketing booklet. I'm here giving you human experience. There are people who are experiencing human experiences, talking from their human experience. I'm not here sitting to you like saying that, giving a promotional campaign for a shampoo. I'm talking to you as a human with a human. And when there is a drunk human who is trying to sell me this shampoo, it's it's 2x unpleasant, because my authenticity does not meet their authenticity. But it's a very bad thing that I'm upset about it. And I'll explain you why. It exposes that I have some expectation and that I feel entitled to being provided human experience in exchange of my human experience. Which means that I inherently have this transactional mindset. And I need to work on that. This is the conclusion from this. And that also I need to trust my senses. When there is promotional campaign for shampoo begins, that's where I need to just dial back and not engage at all, because it becomes an empty waste of energy. That's how I feel about it. I hope that's exhaustive response. Good points, ma'am. Thank you. Phone battery is dying. Enjoy the stream. Thanks so much, Nature's Alphabet. As of today, world, what is the best career to have since AI? I don't know. Just start from within what you find compelling to you to do, and then think how it can be adapted to the modern world. Thanks for the conversation, sister. It was most interesting on my end. Hopefully not too cumbersome on yours. But I need to skedaddle and help with dinner. Please have a great one. Thank you. And salutations to my other friends also. Said some friends is going. Yeah, we're going to probably be wrapping up soon. I'm still actually... What's my battery level at? 25%. I'm going to be alone, Kiva said. We should meet somebody new. But yeah, Dante Hall about the careers. Yeah, I think that always comes from it. Again, you were born into this world, into this nature, and you are given certain talents. You're given certain adaptations. Your genetic makeup. You cannot do better than your genetic maximum. So with your genetic maximum, you will, when you actually use that as your baseline, you will feel much better in life. Will live much more resourceful, much more expensive life than if you start going from outside. But it's nevertheless important to research the trends, and it's important to try applying your skills whenever possible. Because if you think about the development of businesses, the elites will always be buying personal education. The elites will always be buying personal services. The people who will not be able to afford personal work, who will not be able to afford to live in the real world, they will be purchasing something else. They will be relying heavily on AI. So think about it. Why are you wearing a collar? It's a very pretty necklace, I think, with sun here. I like your content. I'm subbing. I'm not the smartest of the bunch, but I like the vibe here. Thank you so much, BXN. Thank you. Bye-bye, Shuriken and Nature's Alphabet. Yeah, bye-bye, guys. I think spirituality helps those who find it difficult finding an internal locus of control that one is typically unborn with. Do you think spirituality can help one understand their role in life? Yes, spirituality, I mean, what you frame here is spirituality. Spirituality, if you distill it purely, is just that connection with the source. Their role in life can be discovered through multiple ways. It can be when you communicate with people you are in connection with. Because actually, in these conversations, we rarely discuss the importance of healthy attachments, healthy relationships, good companionship. But good companionship can be the source of your knowledge about yourself. It can be the way you can find your path as well. Spirituality, I don't know, I think it comes in entanglement with that. Because when you allow yourself to experience your path, spirituality, spiritual connection comes with that. Spiritual connection comes with you realizing your path in life, like feeling yourself, just feeling yourself fully. So, spirituality that is embodied, that does not go against the body, spirituality that does not separate you from your senses, can definitely aid with that. But I think it comes as entanglement. Again, it comes together. We cannot separate what's chicken or the egg thing. Do you own fur coats? Real fur coats? No. Wait, now that I think about it, I'm not technically alone because Madam is here and she counts as friend, so I should be alright. Yeah, you definitely should not worry about that. But I understand that the companionship in the comments as well, because I don't participate in the comments, so it may seem like that. The type of person you're looking for can only be found in secret societies. Which person am I looking for? Hmm? What are you responding to here? Yeah, very true. Even to not participate in the comments, yeah. Elaborate on that secret societies thing, I'm curious. Good amount of notes so far. I want to. What's the type of person? Who am I? Who is looking for whom? I'm waiting for clarifications there. Secret societies in general is such a funny concept in a way. Can it, by the way, be the concept of devotion there that I described? Can they operate on the same mechanism? What type of dude you looking for? Ooh, what a question. What type of dude? What are the types of dudes? Please list me the types of dudes, please. That's not even the tip of the iceberg of spirituality. You didn't even mention spiritual disembodied beings or magic. I surely didn't. Yeah, please, it's tricky. Write down types of dudes that exist. I don't know what types of dudes exist. Like, I don't know what to choose from. Why do you have a colon number? That could be interesting. Willing and unwilling are the types of dudes you may or may not choose from. You mentioned you seem to have high expectations for people that you interact with. The people who will meet your expectations can only be found in secret societies, such are dedicated to causes. Uh, which high expectations do you have for people? Which topic do you refer to? Where did it surface? And expectations, what expectations? I mean expectation that when I was talking about it, that I feel entitled that humans will be reflecting my authenticity back to them. So I speak to them from purity of my mind. I expect people to come to me with as pure intentions, as pure mind as mine. That's the expectation. I don't think that it's a matter of secret societies. And also, the fact that I have those expectations is something that's subject to my correction, something that I need to work on. It's not that this expectation is supposed to be dragging with me throughout the life. That was the whole point of that. Because expectation is always the path to disappointment, expectation and entitlement. And to not have that, you need to be neutral, you need to have expectation. Or to accept that disappointment will be inevitable. I respond, don't know, I don't own if my comments are showing. So with those high expectations, yeah, I mean, if I am to pick friends, for example, for my personal circle, it's not going to be expectations, it's going to be common language that we speak and common values. And in general, I believe in friendships based not on just some speech. I believe in friendships based on creativity. So it all boiled down to me, a lot of talk ends up being pointless, especially when you intimately connect with someone. So it's people with whom you can share similar activities and enjoy them, even if it's just in the same space. So it's people, for me, the concept of friendship, the friendship that I will be entertaining naturally, will be the friendship that allows me to, for example, I'm doing something mine, like I'm making my clothes, I'm writing something, thinking about something, I'm doing something creative, something that's of interest for me. My friend will be here sitting and doing something that they find creative, or we together do something creative. And that's the basis for our friendship, because we both prioritize these activities and we find ourselves in this creative flow. I had those friendships in the art school. It was incredibly beautiful. I was friends with two of my girlfriends from this is my childhood girlfriends. With one we parted ways, but with the other one we're still in chat, we're still in connection. And that was this friendship where this super strong alignment was happening without us needing to discuss, I don't know, do you believe that there is like life on this planet, for example? We did not need to that. We felt very good being in the same environment. And later in life I also met people with whom it was just good being in the same environment, doing things. So that would be the kind of people I'm vibing with. But then people who are interested in how, like what party, which are sucked into the idea of some partisanship of who's what, who are away from their pure human experience, or at least striving to experience this pure human experience. That is the category of people with whom there will be no intimate connection in my case. Just physiologically there will be no connection, just because of our mutual makeup. They will find me not interesting, I will find them not so interesting. We just won't meet. So that's not expectation, but that's what naturally happens. This is how it would zip up with someone. Oh my god. If you don't believe in God, what's your definition of pure nature? Want to solve climate crisis together. I'm past that. I went to the grad school wanting to solve climate crisis until I realized something. Ever met a dude with creative spark? Yes, only those. I heard you talking about vegan. Yes, I have a huge body of work about veganism. It's all on my channel. I don't even want to go talk about it. What is your thoughts of alien? No thoughts about aliens. I don't think about them. Never had any encounters. I know people who've encountered them. I never did, so I cannot say that I ever faced that thing. What did you realize? What did I realize? Everything I realized is on my channel. If you're talking about veganism. Nature being pure is a good answer. Thank you. What did you realize about climate change? I forgot already. What did you realize about climate change? I mean, I realized about climate change that that all human efforts towards it are just for human entertainment. And they're all subject to businesses or corporations funding them for profit. That's how all academia works. False. Sure. Are you vegan? No, I was for 3.5 years, but I was not the idealistic vegan. I was more into health aspects of veganism. I was raw vegan, but I built my diet in a way that it was high fat, high greens, low sugar, with balanced omega-3s and stuff. So I was very meticulous on my choice of foods. And then my experiment had to be interrupted because in 3.5 years there were some consequences. All research is on my channel. Now I'm anti-vegan advocate, ex-vegan advocate, and I have specialty on my website for people who are deconverting from veganism because it's a scary moment. It's an identity crisis as well. I'm a track technician inventor. Inventor? Wow, that's cool. Interesting to meet you on my stream. We did metal deposition sputtering. A lot of things, in fact, relying on vacuum systems. What was the tool that required eternal pump down? Had a lot of systems like that. The blonde girl is pretty. Who's the blonde? I hope I can be worth remembrance. By whom? I'm gonna go for a walk, but I enjoyed your stream. Later. Thank you, BXN. Thank you. I'm also going to go in a few minutes. I'm gonna go because I want to make dinner. So let's part, guys, by the world. Who's the world? What's world? Do you want to be remembered by some, I don't know, some hunter in Tanzania? By caterpillar? Like what? How often do you stream? I stream 5 days a week, but might be changing my schedule to stream less because I already have formed a group, more private group, that I want to do dedicated work with. But I also want to keep doing live streams. I do every day except for Sunday and Monday. Okay, I'm finishing up some notes. I should be done soon. My comment not showing. I just want to make Pops proud. My friend 56, my comment not showing. Can you write it again? I'll cover your comment if there's something interesting to discuss, some question or something. And we'll be going. Because my phone battery is draining. So I'm waiting for a comment and then we'll see. Do you have a graduate degree? What is it? I have a graduate degree in microsystems engineering. I just wanted to know, I think you're special. Thank you, you are too. The title of the stream is interesting. What is spirituality? Spirituality, if you don't mind watching in the replay, we discussed it pretty extensively in the beginning. I put all the basis for this work and the limitations of the statement that I gave in the title, because it's always important to assign the boundaries of applicability to the information that we're stating. So I gave 3 typical examples in which spirituality may become the problem. My comment seems to not show again. That's a paradox, I don't know. I'm very curious about the climate change. It leads back to God creation. They couldn't find the answers. I don't think it's something epic. Nature lives in its own pulse. Nature lives in its own self-regulation. And I don't think that we need to overthink it. It's interesting that it suddenly became a huge deal because humans survived several phases of climate change already throughout their history, and it was all fine. Right now, it's just artificially overblown as some unique event. For every generation, there is this generational sense of uniqueness. Even though there are phenomena that have totally cyclical nature, there's always fair share of different things for every generation. And if people got open to the idea that they are not the most unique, unprecedented generation on the planet, probably it would be much easier to just be more rational, more clear-headed, with thinking about these issues, instead of creating a myth out of something so grandiose and comprehensible as it appears in the mind of a person who attributes all of these phenomena some more grandiose role than it is in reality. I think YouTube doesn't want me to discussing secret societies. I think it might be true. Let's see. Oh, I actually have chat filter. Let me see. Stream was good as always. Gained significant notes, knowledge, and more. I have reached my notes goal, 20 plus pages. Thank you, my friends who have already left. Thank you, Kiva. Let me see. Well, I found that a lot of people are not authentic. I think you've noticed. Secret societies allow for limited access to people authentically engaged in the progress of the group's goal. We saw that now. It's here. So I don't think that it requires secret society. Plus, also secret societies, we might imagine them with purity, but then every secret society also tends to degenerate. Every group tends to degenerate. That's my observation. When you start assembling people in the group grows and starts degenerating. That's the phenomenon that we observe in the elites. Elites degenerate because the group big system with many elements cannot be kept solid, cannot be kept pristine without insane amount of suppression of an individual. But an individual cannot live in the circumstances of insane suppression, because that's against authenticity. So when that happens, there's this conflict between the individual and the group, and this conflict starts eroding the system, this group. So when we talk about secret societies, we might be seduced to imagine them as something very pure, when in reality we're dealing with a group of humans with their psyche. And unless their psyche is augmented in a certain way, they will not be adhering to this group. But if their psyche gets augmented to force them, to bend them into the dogma of the society, in the interest of the society as a whole, then we cannot talk about authenticity. So that's the conundrum there. That's why I don't think that it's a matter of secret society. It's just a matter of just social selection. Like we select people who are in tune with us. Every generation believes it may be the last. Exactly, yeah. Poo poo poo. Good answer, thank you. Every group tends to degenerate. You mean the societies become more powerful and power corrupts, but these are personal flaws. Morality and authenticism are not intricately bound. Understand that. But again, that's the flip happens as the society grows, develops. The society changes its shape from its original roots because of the influences of other people. The society also needs to adapt to something unless they hold very rigid boundaries. And then, if there are rigid boundaries, it starts inflicting on people, morphing into something else, or submitting themselves. And when people cannot express their pure will anymore, because they need to act in the interest of the society to keep it glued, to keep it stable, then it devoids them of authenticity. Do you like The Lord of the Rings? I never watched it. I'm very not versed on the modern culture. So, I know that it was an old film, rather I was a child when it was. My parents watched it, I never did. Star Wars I also never watched. I know that everybody swears by this movie, but I never watched them. As an HVAC technician, I know 1 degree can make the difference between solid and liquid. Oh, Fruity Cutie emerged. Hi, Fruity Cutie. 1 degree can make the difference between solid and liquid, specifically and only at 32 degrees Fahrenheit, if you're referring to water. Well, if that's the price of authenticity, so be it, but because otherwise lacking authenticity in this world doesn't allow for progress. I mean, I feel like there is a pulse of some authentic pursuit that gets carried by the current of things, then it grabs another. There's a current of things, which is the system. There is authenticity that contributes to it, that changes something. Then there's another authenticity, because that authenticity blends in, because the system morphs as well. Oh my god. We are discussing physics now. My phone is at 13%, I think, or less at this point. 13%, yeah. So we need to sign off soon. I'd like to watch the whole series with you. Would you entertain this idea? The whole series? What's that? Whole series. Unless you omitted the W unintentionally. Well, I don't dilly-dally with my thoughts. I'm aware that the group can evolve into its own entity, but authenticity is its own drug. I enjoy progress. For sure. I guess my point is 1 degree matters only if you're away from the state of change by 1 degree. Otherwise, 1 degree doesn't make the difference between solid and liquid. Fair? Lord of the Rings. I wouldn't entertain this idea, no. This is Kiva! Hi, Fruity. Guys, let's part. I'm gonna go cook because it's getting late. I think I joined at the end of the stream. Yes, you did. You did join at around 3 hour mark. And that's how far we usually go. But today was kind of intense. Today was kind of active. And have a great night. Thank you so much, Dante. Thank you. I appreciate it. What do you make? I'm making goat. In the supermarket that's accessible to me, the beef is only sold vacuum sealed, the good meat beef, and I can't do it. It's like it has lactic acid buildup. It just doesn't taste like meat. So I started doing lamb and I started doing goat, duck, all those weird meats. Borscht? No borscht. Exhausted from notes. Yeah, Kiva, you should take it easy. I told that I stream frequently. Tomorrow and Monday you will have time off from all of that and from the writing. And then with Zoom, my dog came. He knows when I finish streaming by some, I don't know, maybe my intonation changes. My dog says hello. Ribeye steak. Yeah, when it's good, when it's freshly butchered, yeah, it's very good. Borscht is good, of course it is. It's just a lot of hassle to make it. I just had lamb shanks at a nice restaurant. Nice. Lamb, yeah, I make lamb. I just throw it. If I make lamb, it's Pyrex. I throw lamb, ton of garlic, black peppercorns, and whole tomatoes. Then you bake it, and then you pop the tomato. Use it as sauce with garlic. Amazing. Might go make steak with butter and rosemary. Thanks. Yes, definitely a lot of hassle to make. Yeah, so now that we've got our dinner plans together, aligned on them, let's finally close live stream. Thank you everyone for participation. Cute dog, thank you. Thank you everyone for participation. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for entertaining even ups and downs today. And I will see you in the next stream. We are going to be apart till Tuesday, at least. What time Tuesday? I usually start streaming around 4 or 5 now. So that's the plan. So 4 or 5 New York time. The topics, you can actually drop the comment if you want me to talk about something specific. Put a comment under this live stream upload. Bye bye.